Hello. Hey, everybody. How are you? Hey, everybody. How are you today? All right. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be, yeah, what's up? What is up? What are we going to be doing? We're going to be following Eric Rosen's latest game in a high school cafeteria. No, just kidding. That's not cool. Levi Roseman's goal to become a grandmaster. Rather than his chase for the grandmaster, I'd like to know how he's an IM in the first place. Anyway, no, I just want to like bash everyone else. Seriously, what's up, guys? Serious analysis here. Jokes only. Serious. We're seriously analyzing, but we have jokes as well. All right. I don't care if we have 5 viewers. This is some good chess. Nefudov. Mr. Velimirovich. Leonid Stein. Somewhere around here, I have a book of. Somewhere around, I had a book of Leonid Stein's games. Nefudov is here. Wow, that's kind of early. We got $31. $31 from Mr. Velimirovich. Did you call me? You rang, sir? Sire? No, it's this. This is how you're supposed to say it. The new Addams Family. No, they're doing the Munsters again. Whatever. Sire? You rang? If you're not supposed to be here already, you're in my mind because you were the last game on the list. Oh, Beetlejuice, right? It's not. Yeah, it's Beetlejuice. There was talk about doing a new Munsters, which was a TV show when I was a kid, and there's of course the Addams Family, but Beetlejuice with Michael Keaton. That's a topic for Nedog. I don't know if Nedog's here, but he likes to talk about film and music, so we'll save that for Nedog. I just happened to put your game in last, and since you are usually last or very late, now our German friends are not late, so Mr. Slow is on time and donated $31, submitting the following game. First off, Velimirovich versus Stein, and I'm happy to see this because Leonid Stein, a great player, and another one of those in the list of he died too young. He wasn't that young, but he had a lot of good years left in him. So Stein's career was cut kind of shorter than it should have been. He wasn't like Julia Breyer, who died at 27 or whatever, but still, Stein could have been a very serious competitor for many more years. But anyway, I'm just glad to see Velimirovich against a world-class player. Stein, who had a plus, I think he had a plus score against Fischer, if I'm not mistaken. Only 3 or 4 people had a plus score against Fischer. I'm just picking that number up randomly. Are Brenton donating a gift sub? Masturbate donating a gift sub. Early and often. Arturas asks, can we play? Not today, Arturas. Today is a serious analysis stream. You came on the wrong day. You'd like to play? That was an hour ago. Whoa. I got this message an hour ago. I was just doing a lesson. So, alright. Arturas, if you're out there, today, no play. Tomorrow I'm playing. If you want to play, you can join our stream tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern European time. I'll be playing between 12 and 2. What's the doctor is in, or whatever. I will play Blitz tomorrow between 12 and 2. Okay, I got games from Mr. Slow, who donated $31 to our fundraiser for the World Senior. We're ranked 5th. USA, England won. Iceland, Italy, and USA 2. And I'm USA 2. Board 2. So we're looking forward to that. The top 2 teams are very strong, and they also have like reserves. So they have an extra player. An alternate, I should say. Not reserve, but alternate. Whatever. Alright, anyway, I'm all over the place. Velimir Stein, Prismatic Prism, submitted a game. Nirales, Yabatis, Asterbait, and then Nefedov. Nefedov submitting a game against me. And I've got, so that's 6 in total. Thank you guys. You got a couple minutes. We're going to start a hype train. You're going to need some support. Sorry I was a little bit late. My Streamlabs OBS wouldn't do the window capture. I was late already, and then I was even later because I had to get the freaking thing to work. It wasn't picking up the window capture for my Google Chrome, so I was like, how am I gonna show the board on the screen here? And again, my computer is being a little bit weird. It's like now I don't have a taskbar. Windows updates. Our Brenton with 300 bits. Mr. Slowwood gifted a tier 1 sub to Gina Rook. Gina Rook has been out for a long time. Our Brenton 300 bits. Thank you. My taskbar is suddenly not working. Oh, there it is. Decided to work again. Okay. And it says my only friend online is someone on sound. That's weird. Asterbait's online. Nefedov's online. Mr. Slow gifting tier 1 sub. Anonymous gifter gifting tier 1 sub. To inmates only. No, I'm just kidding. I need glasses. That's a funny name, though. Innate optimist. I'm an innate bipolar. Optimist, pessimistic. I'm pessimistic. I think about pests. Asterbait gifting tier 1 sub to Pavlakic. Alright, anyway. We're gonna start. Hey. Now with more start. Paul active tonight. He looks very emotional. So this is Leonid Stein with black. Stein loved the Sicilian, and he was one of my inspirations on the black side of the Richter Rouser, actually. Most games we've seen from Velimirovich, have been E6 Sicilians with white, or he played the dragon with black. So we haven't seen any classical Sicilians, but I'm kind of excited because maybe it will be Velimirovich. Actually, come to think of it, now that I think about it, I'm wondering if this is a famous game. Maybe this is one of those big Velimirovich games that's critical for the system. It's got to be a Velimirovich attack, and you've got an opponent who plays classical Sicilian with black, 3 times USSR champion. All right, so Velimirovich white against Stein. It's e4, c5, knight f3. Where was this played, by the way? This was played in Austria in European Team Championship. Kaffenberg, Austria, 1970. Stein passed away in the early 70s. Maximum 75. I don't remember exactly, but yep, it's a Sozin. We need one more person. One more pair, son. Hype training is close. We have 2 minutes. One more anonymous gifter. Asterbait, you don't count. You already gifted. You need one more pair, son. D4, C takes D4. Knight takes D4 here. Knight F6. So as expected, Stein plays the classical Sicilian. The question is, what will Velimirovich do? Well, when you're a specialist in the Velimirovich attack, you play Bishop C4. And you can play that against both. Some Prism doing any gift 1 sub. A gift 1 sub. Tier 1 sub, yes. So that's a hype train incoming. Nice. Nice, we did it. We got 5 gifts. You have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes. Sun Prism, thank you. So we got 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We're 50% of the way there to level 1. Bishop c4. As expected. Now, Benko, famously, this variation is named after him with Queen b6. And I think, in retrospect, our Brenton donated 200 bits. He's up to 60% of the way there. This is, thank you, this is, well, let's say the best way to avoid a hard day at the office. If you don't like facing the Velimirovich attack, Queen b6 forces White's hand here. I lost one time against Alex Scherzer, I think. e6, Bishop e3, and now Queen c7, which is interesting. I've always played Queen c7 on the next move. And come to think of it, like, Mr. Slow has played the Velimirovich attack before against me. Astrobate gifting a tier 1 sub to Prince X, taking us up 70% of the way to level 1. So Queen c7 immediately, not fearing any kind of knight b5. Discombobulators here! See how on time these Germans are. Hungarians are not known for being necessarily timely. Who else? Italians, Mexicans. Let's be as racist as possible. But Discombobulator on time. Mr. So is on time. So we need more timely German followers. Astrobate gifting a tier 1 sub to Prince X. We said that already. Discombobulator, thank you for 245 bits. 245. Alright, so Queen c7, and then interestingly, no one played ever knight b5 here. Presumably. That's kind of unbelievable, isn't it? There's literally 32 games and no one ever played knight on db5. I mean, the obvious move. And then black can choose between queen b8 or queen a5. And here's one game where white castled. Matthew Herman. Mr. Slow taking us over the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gift subs. They're going to Heroic Dose, Blix, Liquidator, Gaming Gustav 95, and the Benzinator. So we got level 1 completed, going for level 2. Level 2 hype train. Thank you guys. Serious analysis here. So what is this with knight b5? Computer doesn't like it. It's interesting. What's the best move for black? Queen b8. There's a couple things that strike me about this. The first one is that it's surprising that no one tried knight b5 in 40 games. Secondly, it's surprising to me that Mr. Slow, Velimirovich played bishop b3 because he could have played queen e2, which is very much in keeping with the spirit of the thing. And we're still, and there you go. There's another game he did play, actually in 82. So maybe he changed his mind about this. Velimirovich, Bozidar Ivanovich, 1982. There's one game. See if there's any others. No. So we'll see. But if white could do without bishop e3, would it maybe save some time? I like queen e2 better than bishop e3 because you're developing a new piece, right, Astrobate? You're developing another piece rather than moving the same piece twice. And the bishop remains flexible. There are lines where this drops back to d3. And I think it's best to not commit one way or the other, depending on what's going on. So it's very interesting. This is committal, but fine. All right. Bishop e3, a6 now. I've played this position 8 million times with black. Black, I prefer not to play bishop e7. And so I've typically played exactly like Stein here, Queen E2, and now it is possible to play G4. It looks like I had this game once with Michael Rode where he let me like take on G4 or something to get control of D5. I guess it's maybe not good here just yet. All right, Queen E2, Knight A5, and now G4. This is standard. And now normally what we would do with black would be B5. B5 is my go-to move. I'm used to looking at this position from the black side. Guys, we're 16% of the way there to high train level 2. We have 1 minute and 53 seconds. Thank you for your donations. So B5 by far the main move. Knight B3 is not great because you open up the A file, and that can be like kind of an annoyance for black. We want to probably do that only later, and it's not going anywhere, the bishop on B3. Bishop E7 is just asking to get hit by like all sorts of sacrifices involving Knight F5 and Knight D5 later, which Velimirovich likes to do. Asterbait gifting another tier 1 sub to Thunderbolt YY. Alright, if you hear any piano music in the background, that's my new apartment. New apartment? Anyway, there's some toddler like getting piano lessons upstairs or something. Okay, so G4. If you hear like Mary Had a Little Lamb or something vaguely in the background, it's my upstairs neighbors. But anyway, I've never played H6 or even considered playing it, to be honest. I mean, from my experience, touching the pawns on the king side tends to have a negative effect. Oftentimes, like, you weaken yourself more than it's worth. So by playing H6 here, we weaken G6. It may not seem like a big deal now, but later, after like Rook G1, H4, G5, G6 is weaker. And that may be a factor. So that's the question. The other question is what moves black has. I think I might have experimented with Rook B8 once. And maybe that's just like a move order trick. I'm not sure if white has anything special. But the point is, like, when black gets hit by G5 and the knight goes back to D7, you have possible sacrifices on E6. And I was just telling Discombobulator yesterday. Nefkidov, it seems like your PayPal donations alert is still not fixed. Donation alerts. That is correct. Nefkidov has made a donation. Guys, we reached level 1 hype train emote. Got a new emote unlocked. New emote unlocked. Share. Sharing is caring. Show off your support in chat. So it's a choo-choo. But is that? Yeah. Dude, where is it? Where is my new emote? Yeah, I want to see it. Share. Share. Hooray! Can I just... Only visible to you? Alright, there it is. So... Nefyudov has donated. I just want to announce this. And make sure we received a donation from Nefyudov. This will not be spent on brown beer. Nefyudov has donated. The amount is... Nefyudov has donated. Are you ready? $20 US. Nefyudov has donated $20 US. Thank you, Pavel, for donating. $20 to the beer fund. That doesn't go in the official fundraiser fund. It goes in a special light beer fund. All right. Rook b8, interesting. Anyway, okay, so he plays h6. This I've never played before. By the way, the normal move is b5, knight. b5, g5, and then you can either play. I've played both. I've played both knight d7 and b4. But knight d7 is the main move. And then there's this sacrifice here on e6. Knight e6, f6, bishop e6. Threatening knight d5. Yeah. Knight b6. Bishop takes b6. White doesn't have a good score here, if you might note. White does not have a plus score here. It's equal. But anyway, we're going to see what happens here when Leonid Stein faces Velimirovich's attack back in the day in 1970, h6. So he tries to circumvent the g5. Is it worth it? Castle's queenside, now b5. And I'm just checking to see if there's any more modern games in the database. Mikuláš Maník with black there. I played him back in February. He had the weird alcohol odor at the board. Okay. b5. Nothing wrong with that. I like drinking, during the game as much as anybody else. All right, f3. So now, white plays f3. This is a kind of restrained move by Velimirovich, Dr. Velimirovich. Normally we see, non-stop attacking by white. So white is saying like, oh, I want to reinforce my pawn on e4. But it's surprising a little. Usually it's like more all or nothing kind of attacking going on here. 3 games with f3, 2 games with g5. g5 sort of loses its point, by the way. Like, what's the point of g5? I don't get it. This is how this guy Janko lost against Maník. g5 loses its point. If we're not chasing the knight off of f6, I don't get it. So the only other move I would consider with white would be, obviously like prophylactic moves like king b1, or possibly something like rook g1. Or possibly, while we're saying possibly h4. Is this a threat to win this pawn on e4? There are many cases where such pawns are dangerous to take, and I'm sure this is no exception. You also have to be aware of this check that sometimes like pops in there. Not necessarily dangerous though. So okay, f3, and of the games here, this game is not included. The most recent, 2010, the most distant, Pavlovich Dragon in 1981 with black. Black is 1 and 3 here. But I mean, black's played h6 and white has played f3 in the normal position. So 3 players played knight takes b3 check, and that's a move that I normally like don't want to play until I have to, because it's inflexible. The problem is, what else can black do? I have a lot of experience playing this type of position with black. What else can black do? Perhaps we need to be aware of the possibility of sacrifices even with the knight still on f6. This rook can come to e1, and it's possible that white could chuck a knight into d5 and sack a piece like that. But you see here 3 games where black played knight takes b3 check, and I think that it's a little bit inflexible, kind of like BFD. Takes. Panyuswamy Kanguvil. Oh, I lost to that guy. I think. Knight takes b3, a takes b, and now b4, or bishop b7. Now, I don't like knight takes b3. So, Stein plays b4. And then we're either going to see bishop a4 check, knight a4, or possibly knight to d5. I also want to mention that the last time I had a really sharp Velimirovich was like against Alonso Zapata in the World Open in 2006. Seems like, and Zapata had this weird position where in a similar situation he had to play like, I don't know, he ended up playing like knight b1 or something. It was crazy. But I don't believe that, I don't believe that this is like really a good option for white. So the players in 1981 played knight a4, Villeneuve played knight a4. If this sort of sacrifice, I mean, you're close to some attack here, by the way, but it looks like it's probably not quite enough. The knight's two best attacking posts are covered by the bishop and the knight on a5. So it doesn't look like white has a clear way forward there. I wouldn't be surprised if white had some compensation. But it looks like too much. And then Velimirovich loved to make these kind of knight sacrifices. But it looks like Stein kind of avoided it. So, and this check doesn't really do anything, ultimately. Check, bishop d7. And even knight d7 is possible. So, okay, knight a4. And now this square can be a problem. I'll tell you from experience. So what should black do? See, only thing is, like, I showed one of my students recently, the other day, the game from Norway Chess, which featured, like, Magnus losing with black in a Sicilian against Pragnananha. And it was the typical story where, like, black didn't get his king out of the center. We were talking about this in one of my streams. But in this type of line, where black leaves the bishop on f8 and the Velimirovich, the plan is usually to leave the king in the center. Exactly, not castle. Because if you do the routine thing now, you're just getting blasted. We kind of signed off on not castling a long time ago for black here. And obviously, like, you push your queenside, so the idea of, like, playing bishop d7 and queenside castling is not really a solution either. Most of the time. I also want to stress that black played h6. And so castling kingside is even less appealing after that. Because white has this, like, lever, hinge or whatever they call it, with the pawn on h6. It's easier to break him open with g5. So, just doing this type of thing like bishop e7, you're just asking for it. I mean, maybe bishop e7 is okay, but ultimately it's going to be like h4, g5, and you're in trouble. But the question is, what should black do? Bishop d7 itself isn't a bad suggestion. But again, when the pawns start coming, like, where is this knight going to go? This is a problem I've encountered, many times. If you play bishop d7, you don't have a place to put your knight. That's the issue, and it's a serious issue. So, I mean, I've done some desperate stuff in the past. Like, in this type of position, you might have to consider stuff like take, take, take. Oh, we transposed to something. Oh my god. Take, take, take. Dr. Tits. B takes a4. See, this is what I'm talking about. He makes way for the knight to come back to d7. There was this famous game I've alluded to before. I think it was Large versus Tits, if I'm not mistaken. Peter Wells told me about. Alright, anyway, a chuckler. Shame Arsenal's not here for that story. What Dr. Tits? Heimo Tits, he was like an Austrian. I think he was Austrian, I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. He might have been German. I kind of assumed Austrian, but I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Yeah, there it's in the list there. Heimo Tits. I think he's passed. Tits have passed on, but it was just a famous pairing. I don't know what he did. Yeah, plastic surgery. He did breast enlargements. That would be funny. Dr. Tits. Dr. Tits breast enlargements. But anyway, I'm just trying to think of ways to make black's position work. Yeah, this might be a desperate try. Bishop d7, bishop takes a4. But there's a Parley Grass game here from 2004. You know what? I'm impressed by Marchea. Look at his unbelievable, like, 20 years ago, and he still doesn't seem that old. He was 2564. 20 years ago, he was 2564. That's insane. Marchea. He doesn't look old enough to have been 2564 in 2004. He must have been quite young and quite a protege. But, alright. I was back in the States, moving over here in 2004. So, knight d7. This is the solution from the great Leonid Stein. Now, black, believe me, I've faced this a lot. Bishop e6, pawn e6, knight e6. And then you have queen c4. And I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, I never had this position with h6, but this type of idea, like trade, check. Speaking of Arsenal fan, I had a game with him. Either king d8 or king f7. And then after knight e8, well, this is unfortunate because the bishop's hanging on e3. So the sacks on e6 aren't really the issue. It's the king position in the center, like long term. So what will white come up with here? Knight d7, king b1. Now this is interesting. The other game, black blinked and played knight takes b3 check. I still am not sure about it. Knight d7, king b1. Now we can take with the c pawn and use the c file as an avenue of attack in some lines. You see, now the problem is that Stein sort of ran out of gas here. He doesn't know what to do. So he does bishop e7. I've been there, bro. But one of the problems with this type of position is that this sack may be stronger now. Like bishop e6, pawn e6, knight e6. It looks like it's not a problem because of queen c6 we can hit this guy. I mean, it's still scary, but like check, king f7. I mean, both black pieces are attacking the white knights, and black's already up a piece. So I'm skeptical. Wow. This is actually like still better for white, according to the engine, after knight f5, queen takes a4. Jesus Christ. Wow. Obvious, like everybody saw rook takes e6 except for you, Sladgy. That's totally insane. Rook takes e6, queen b5, only move, and position is obviously equal. Well, everybody knows that. But just an example of how complicated this could be, this type of line. Stein played bishop e7. I say you don't sign off on castling kingside ever here. He thought he could like try to hold the line. And the point is now white is threatening g5 and g6. And that's like rip Emery Tate. Emery was a big fan of Velimirovich. You know, he used to play the... I'm thinking of people who played the Velimirovich attack against me in Blitz and stuff. And like Tate was one of them. He loved all like crazy attacking players. So Emery used to follow his variations sometimes. Another player who I had some really interesting Velimirovich games with was a Russian FM from Leningrad, who was an old friend of mine. He had a very, very dense notebook filled with variations that he studied at the frickin' Pioneer Palace when he was kids with like Leonid Udazin. I have to ask Udazin if he still has the notebook or whatever. I mean, it was Udasin's notebook. This was the point. Like, I don't know how, but my friend ended up with like Udasin's like Velimirovich notebook somehow. But anyway, that's how powerful like Velimirich's ideas were. Like even the freaking like Soviet grandmasters were, or the Russians were studying. This is 1970. Leonid Stein getting crushed. Some players were taking notes there in Russia because it started to be popular among those guys as well. H4 G6, that's weakening the black king side. This sack is scary even now, you know. But he goes interesting. H5. This is a little surprising. But the most important thing is like not to allow white to play G5, G6. That's like, speaking of Udasin, I think Tate beat Udasin in a really nice Sicilian one time with something like G6 and Escape-Ingen. It was his most, that was Emery's like literally like most proud game. But I saw him do this, of course. It was a very standard attack in the Velimirovich, like attacking the base of the pawn chain. Curious attack as well, obviously. So G6, not really standard here, and then H5. But you know, okay, it looks like, well, really H5, you're gonna let white close it up, or rather let black close it up with G5. So positionally, white has a big space advantage after this. But the problem is, like, barring a sacrifice on E6, how are you going to break through? Because this is very anti-positional. Yes, it has to be considered. Like, this is totally within the realm of consideration. I would say F4 is not only within the realm of consideration, it's like a main move kind of thing. So I'm sure that Velimirovich put a lot of thought into this. Besides, like, obvious sacrifices on E6, we have this break, you know, and in the case of any kind of pawn fork, well, there's some slight problems here. I'm not sure losing a piece is a big deal. So there's F4, there's sacrifices, and then there's this. So this is, when I pointed to, you know, King B1, I said, okay, the first thing is that you can recapture with the pawn on C takes B, opening the C file for play. Now, if Stein were to take on B3 now, I mean, this is rarely a good move for white, but it might be considered. This knight, the knight is like lost, isn't it? If you take, you get queen c6, and then there's no way to protect the knight. It's bye-bye. Bye-bye, knight. Nice knowing you. Have a nice life. So it has to be pawn takes. And I was just thinking, well, I don't know, this looks a little bit funky, you know? I would be strongly tempted to do it that way, to take on b3 now. But he takes on c3. And one of the problems here is that white has another option with rook c1. And I don't think Leonid Stein would miss this. That was the first thing I was thinking. So if we play c3 and you take on b3, I have to recapture with the pawn. Now if I take, I mean, what's the point? Is it the same thing? We're going to do rook c1? Maybe. I have this gut instinct like black is hanging on here, that it may not be that bad. Plus half a pawn. Basically, that would be right. Maybe he should take the bishop. He plays c3, he takes on c3, then rook c1. And so then black plays knight to c5. And now white takes... so black is really delaying this capture on b3. I'm not sure if it matters. Here. And this looks like it's going to matter. Because all of a sudden, a4 is double attacked. But not really, right? Because the knight on c5 is pinned. So, okay. It's not clear that black actually has a threat here. He could castle, but only under the right circumstances where the attack isn't that strong. The less pieces on the board, the better. I would say as far as castling. But the move that comes next reminds me of there was like a tile game, I think, in the Velimirovich with the e5. But Tal did it in a position where he had like rook takes c4 and rook over. I don't remember who it was against. I mean, rook d4. Sorry, it was like rook d4, rook g4, and the e5 pawn allowed the rook to shift over. But this move, where did this come from? So if I was black, I would have said, okay, I'm trading here first. I don't know about this position, but I wanna trade this first. Clarify the situation a bit. Okay, take. You go here, whatever. I play knight c5, and then you do like rook takes. I think the point is that this is still a theme. e5 is still a theme. Let's see, like bishop d7. Let's say e5. Pawn takes e5. Do we have this type of thing? At the end of the day, white is going to unravel like a triple attack on c5. We might even call it a quadruple attack. So it's like boom, boom, or boom. White is better deployed than black. And if black can't get his king out of the center, he's in trouble. But this is a really, really key move, which Stein might have missed. e5. This is critical. He's undermining c5. That's the point. So the exchange happened anyway. Knight takes b3, a takes b3, and now black to move. And so if he takes on e5, I think that black's screwified. I mean, maybe we simply win a piece. Like, you could just... Well, how do we do it? Just, what? Knight c5? Knight c5 not so clear. Knight e6 doesn't work? Well, it does. It's a transposition to what I was just looking at. Okay, so takes b5. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And black played the best move now. Queen b8. If he takes, knight c5 is winning. Wow. I was wondering about this. We have bishop takes d4, which I missed. Damn. So this is what I missed, and I'm sure Velimirovich didn't miss it. The end of the line, I was afraid of this in-between move, takes on d4. But the point is we have another threat against the rook on h8. So white's just crushing. So you can't interpose that move. So Stein finds the best possible move here. So it's possible he saw e5 all along. Queen b8 is the best defense. He gets out of the line. keeps d6 protected, keeps a little bit of pressure here. But, I mean, the point is, White's advantage in terms of development is very serious. And the Magnus Carlsen King on e8, you know, this is 1970 Magnus Carlsen Sicilian. And I've been there, you know. Pragnananha, Carlsen, same theme. King doesn't get out of the center. I've been crushed before, I'll be crushed again. So rook c1, sorry. Boom, 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 queen b8. And now white to move. E takes d6. And now we all expected bishop takes d6. Guys, 10, 15 viewers, nice. All right. So we all expected, again, this is Belimirovich Stein, 1970. We all expected bishop takes d6, but suddenly you're like, oh, wait, there's our favorite tactic, like knight f5. That's an ugly move. I don't like the look of that, you know? But how bad is it? So, for example, knight takes a4. Well, let's just say knight takes d6 check, queen takes d6, and then just simply takes. How the heck is black getting his king out of the center and avoiding the skewer with bishop c5? The only way to survive would be trading pieces, like rook c8. There is a chance that black stays alive here, but it's looking pretty grim. You're almost like down a rook, basically. Ops-colored bishops. Said it once, I said it 100 times. Material doesn't matter. It's the attack, the initiative. So Stein just trades first on a4. B takes a4. He takes back, and now it looks like white has some ideas of knight f5. That's the one move that bothers me the most, because knight f5 would also free up this square, and white has just a very concrete attack on the dark squares. So I assume this is a strong move, but this might be stronger. It's very likely that this move is even stronger. It's like making way for the other rook to come across. So, I don't know. I mean, I would think like you had to play queen d8 now, but it doesn't look great. Still, there's the threat of bishop takes a4. Is this so simple? We have this again, and it's still looking very unpleasant. You know, just boom. And this is critical. Takes on g5, discovered check. Wonder if black could survive there. Bishop takes e7, queen e7, rook e3. Bishop e6, pawn takes f5. And white is very close to winning. Black king never finds safety. For example. Wow, he has a way out. Bishop takes f5 check. Oh my god. This variation doesn't work. Oh my god. This variation doesn't work. Oh my god. Is this important? Wow. Queen d8 holds. He probably missed this, you know? He probably missed this. I mean, white is still better, but I mean, this is the thing you're afraid of. As black for sure. It's bishop takes g5. Would you believe this doesn't win for white? That's definitely like the Wizard of Oz kind of like, you know, the stuff you don't see that happens behind the curtain. This is why Liechtenstein like lost the game, because he probably didn't think this variation could survive. It's a miracle, you know. But it's just barely hanging on there for black. Black is literally barely hanging on here by his teeth after rook d3. Something like that. Really close game, but black is worse. So he plays this. This looks problematic. You know, this is like, oh my god. He just played bishop b4. I mean, that's a move like I basically wouldn't play because it looks like it's like hopeless. This looks really hopeless. This is like desperation. You're self-pinning. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm definitely playing queen d8. So what was he thinking here? Like, he can meet knight c2 with bishop a4? This is the hope. Does that even work? It doesn't even work, does it? Like, rook takes b4, bishop takes c2 check, queen takes b4, queen c6 check, and black has to resign. So I don't even know what he's hoping for here. You know, it looks like even knight c2 is good. Okay, black has a5, and maybe he can try to... He might be able to put up some resistance after a5. Alright. But in any case, white doesn't get baited into doing knight c2. He plays knight f5. Now his bishop's pinned. So you definitely can't take the knight now. If you take the knight, you get bishop f4. Check. The knight cannot be captured. So I think it's time to castle soon. Castle? Castle, anybody? Like knight takes h6 check? Oh man. So he took here. And then he succumbs to an attack. Knight g7 check. King f8. Bishop c5 check. King g7. Rook takes b4. So we got back the piece, and now it's ops-colored bishops. And f4 is covered, and e5 is covered. So where does the black queen go? He plays bishop b5. Doesn't go anywhere. And now bishop b4 check. And now f6 is the only move that doesn't lose the exchange. But remember that f6 weakens the g6 square. So there's some scary stuff, like, for example, queen c2 or queen e4. I guess queen e4. That doesn't look great. And so Stein had to give up the exchange with king g8. And this is interesting. White makes a crazy move here. He doesn't even take the exchange. He just plays queen e1. That is kind of bizarre. He's like, no, I don't want the exchange just yet. I mean, I think he's winning after bishop takes h8, but he wanted more. This wouldn't have been that easy to win. Right. He's more sure that he's winning without taking the exchange. And this rook is trapped anyway, out of play. So rook h7. Obviously, it needs to get out. Black has one chance. And no. Wow. So he just seals him in. That's very beautiful. Very beautiful. Black is essentially down a rook now. And possibly in a virtual mating net. That's really brutal. Yeah. And so e5, desperation. Again, material not so significant with ops-colored bishops. Black's wise to try to sacrifice this pawn. He'd like to get a queen exchange. Of course, that's not happening. Takes queen e8. And he does get a queen exchange. Bishop f6. But the problem, again, he's down a rook. So even a queen exchange won't save him. He can't get rid of that bishop on f6. He remains down a rook and loses the game. So no longer even a queen exchange will save him. So long as the bishop remains on f6. Great game. So e5, bishop takes and back again. So maybe black has a try of some kind, like preventing bishop f6. Queen b6, for example. I can tell you what I think would probably happen. rook d4 with ideas of rook d6. But seriously, maybe there's some vague hope here. If black plays queen b6. Wow. Wow. Holy shit, so he's actually still alive. Black is not lost after queen b6, or even queen b7. Queen b6. He plays queen e8, bishop f6, and then queen e6. But this is key, that the bishop on f6 can maintain itself. So long as the bishop stays on f6, black is going to lose. This doesn't matter. Oh no. So apparently this was a mistake. Black has bishop d3 check. Time pressure. Well, he has to sack his queen. Queen d3, rook c1, king c1, queen e1 check. King c2, queen f2 check, picking up the rook. King b1, queen b6. And it's not clear that white is winning, or even better. Okay, time pressure. Sight knot. Rook c1. I've been there. And now black is lost. Here's a check. Another check. And then he walks away. And no more good checks. I mean, he has a check at e1, obviously. This would be the last check. I can even trade queens. And that's the point. Rook d8's coming, it's mate. So Stein even missed chances until the very end, but eventually the time pressure got him. Alright guys, I'm going to take a very short break, be right back. We're going to do the rest of the games. That was our highlight of the night. Of course, Mr. Slow with a donation. And GM play by Velimirovich against Liechtenstein. Be right back. Alright, we're back. That was fast, huh? We are back, and we're going to be going over subscriber games. We got that submission from Mr. Slow. Donations from Mr. Slow. Pipe Train. Nefidov. Nefidov, let me know if you want to go. You want to go soon. If you want to go earlier rather than later, because I know you're here, and you've got some brown beer to drink, so if you need to go anywhere, let me know. We'll do your game first. Normally, Nefidov is on the later side, and he did submit the game later. But I know Mr. Sung Prism is here as well. We'll start with that. Nefidov, you can go when you want to go. Or you can always just leave, and we'll do the game, and you can watch it whenever you want. You guys don't have time to stay. By the way, is Yabatis here? Yabatis has a game submitted for later. We got Morales, Yabatis, and Asterbate. Mr. Slow Hand Grinded. He's an artist of chess. Well, he didn't play that game personally, but yeah, he's inspired by the best. So, Sung Prism is playing white here. This is a game Sung Prism submitted to the stream. With white, we're looking at e4 Philidor defense, knight f3, d6, and of course d4 is the most challenging move. There are other ways for white to play bishop c4, knight c3, but I think this is fundamentally the best. We're putting pressure on the center, trying to break it down. Center is the most important principle in chess, probably, with the exception of king safety. So we see a lot of exchange Philidors, and it's more fun to play the exchange Philidor, but it's also more dangerous because black crumbles at the strong point there. So traditionally, the Hannah variation has been, over the years, the more respected, let's say, variation. Although it's very stodgy for black, not easy to play the black side of this. We have to play like an old Indian sort of passive position. Now white play d takes e5, and I don't know the theory of this too much, but I mean, Spectacular Camel subscribing. I am here, subscribing for 58 months. I don't like this move in principle because we're trading, we're trading a pawn for a weaker pawn. When you play d takes e, you're trading d for d. You're not trading d for e, you're trading d for d, which creates a symmetrical structure. But I mean, probably the most important issue with this move isn't the symmetrical structure. It's that we're fixing black's bad bishop, making it active from f8. So I think this move is definitely the sideline for a reason. I don't think that this is best. You should play bishop c4 or knight c3. C4 would transpose to a king's Indian, by the way, or old Indian. So it's either bishop c4 or knight c3. Theoretically, you could play c3 and transpose to, another kind of stock position where white is a little better. All right. So d takes e5, controversial now. d5 could be a move. Well, d5 is a move, but it's something special. Likely white would have to follow up with c4, and again, it's an old Indian of sorts. But a good question. So he plays d takes e5. Now, black normally should take with the pawn. This is fundamental. If black takes with the knight, the end game is nothing much. So there's bishop c4. Now, Yubatis, this is not one of those positions where you can play king e7, is it? We had this thing with Yubatis that we looked at, a similar position where the premise was, rather surprisingly, this counterintuitive move blocking the bishop at f8 with the idea of bishop e6 to trade bishops, and if b3, you play bishop e6, and if bishop a3 check, you play king f6, and the rook defends the bishop at f8. Does anybody recall ever seeing anything like this? I'm giving away all of Yubatis' trade secrets here. I mean, white is certainly not worse, but Spectacular Camel, you're weird, and I told you he's not Dutch. Okay? He continues to do this anyway. Stop it. You're embarrassing us. American. Stop being American. So what's the eval here? Wow, it's like equal. Oh my god. So bishop a3, b3 is probably a mistake, first of all. After king e7. Okay, king e7 is a secret move. The one problem is that white has f4 now, which is more dynamic. The American cheese variation. Anyways, so d takes e5, d takes e5 was played. Now knight to c3. And that's surprising. Wow. So of all the people, we have Mestrovich playing white. Mestrovich, who's the master of knight c6 with black, by the way. Knight c6 and then a lot of openings that Yabatas and I have looked at. He's passed on. But he's playing another great, even greater player, Abramovich. Is it my imagination, or didn't Abramovich pass away recently? Last year, a few years ago. Alright. But anyway, only the good die young. No. I said it wrong. Oh, the good die young. Is that right? Yeah. Alright, anyway. Enjoy your beer. So that's a cool idea, but anyway, Sun Prism decided to play knight c3. Okay, this doesn't look particularly dangerous. It's probably a fast-paced game. This was a unknown game, imported, and see if I got a note from him. Sun Prism, no notes. So he's got no information on this game. Just an online game. Black played c6, which is kind of routine, but it should be fine. But I have a question, as to whether black should do this or not. Notice that Bosco doesn't play c6. It's not like developing the king side. I don't think it's necessary to play c6. c6 is kind of like, what are you defending against? Knight d5? I'll play c6 if I need to. But it's really not necessary. That's a tad routine. Now bishop c4. So now you have threats of knight to g5. And I've seen this before. On bishop e7, isn't there knight g5? I remember seeing this game in New England like 20 years ago. My friend Ildar Ibragimov played white, I think, against this like weaker Russian player. Yeah, this is the position. I think it was Ildar, but it could have been Kudrin. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah, this is known. This variation is supposed to be good for white. You're supposed to play knight to g5. It was like somebody against Zlatnikov, either Kudrin or Ibragimov. And Zlatnikov did like bishop to h5 and lost this ending after queen h5. What I'm not getting is like, what's up with the score here? I mean, why are the top games like black is winning? What's up with that? Strikovich winning, Chom draw, Barua winning, Strikovich draw, Lazic draw. It's like white didn't win any of these top games at all. But I mean, the Grandmaster I saw, and either way, it was the Ibragimov or Kudrin. They were very happy with white. It was like bishop to h5, queen h5, and this, and now white has a slight edge. Wow, so queen takes is clearly superior according to the engine, and I would guess a lot of people would maybe mess that up. It's only a slight edge though, and you have to like an endgame. In a sort of weird way, this reminds me of black playing like the Lowenthal Sicilian or something. Maybe it's the queen on g5, or the fact that black gives up their dark square bishop. Maybe both. So this attacks g7. This seems like the secret. Why did black win a bunch of games? Because like white didn't know what he was doing and did bishop takes g5, which isn't quite as bad apparently. So this is like the secret. You play queen takes, you force a trade of queens. And then I would think like this bishop would either go to e3, or it would maybe go all the way back to c1 and a3 to chow on that diagonal, you know? Like bishop c1, a4, bishop a3. Enjoy my dark square bishop. So suddenly, like, black doesn't have too many wins in this position. Yeah, so this is important to know. But I don't play d takes e5 anyway. So instead you played bishop e3. And I think the risk you're running here is that routine play is going to give black an equal game. Hans Niedermeyer. Man. Yeah, you're drifting fast here with the routine moves, man. I mean, what happened to playing, like, preventing b5 in the Philidor? And the thing is, if you do a4, this square is so weak that black might even have, like, bishop e4 at some point. It's way better to do a4. It's way better to do a4 if you haven't exchanged pawns on e5, because this is not an issue. Yeah, this reminds me of a game in my last tournament in March. It was Bodhi Tibor against Pop Misha. And Bodhi lost. Pretty ugly game with white. He was really, like, tilted too in that tournament. Yeah, this is like really routine. You're just completely playing like a blithering zombie. First of all, you should probably have h3 at some point to stop the knight g4 type of stuff. Secondly, you have no answer to his queenside pawns. And you castle in there anyway, like making this even more deadly. So now it's like not only your bishop's getting attacked, but you're gonna like be facing a pawn storm. This is terrible. You know, so black played a reserve move. He should probably start launching pawns. Now h3, as I said, which is totally reasonable. Computer spots this. Astrobate would have seen this too. A typical idea, but again, I think your queen is better placed on e2. The d file is kind of overrated. There's also a problem that if he gets like here, 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 you have no d4 control. Now what are we going to do? You're going to play bishop e3 and face a5? You gotta realize at this point that you're worse, and actually like the fire alarms are going off, you know, on the ship. If your position was like a If your position was a ship, you'd have like sprinklers going off and fire alarms and shit. If this was the Titanic. What is the quote? I think Spectacular Camel had a quote that he could share in a situation like this. If your house is on fire, it's like from shogi or something. You know, if your house is on fire, you shouldn't be attacking or something. I don't know. It was something like that, but your house is on. If your house is on fire, don't go fishing. Okay, I was close. You're basically fishing while your house is on fire. Yeah, well, it's time to sound the emergency alarm already for white, because we're on the verge of losing e4. I think this move has to be considered. Shogi. Not shogi, go. My bad. See, I mess everything up. It's better to be a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war. That's funny. We could come out with all kinds of variations. So here, and now if black's greedy, he plays b4. a5 is really a very good move. But black being materialistic, he just couldn't wait to like get his greasy hands on this pawn. But maybe that's not the most important thing, you know? Because now you're giving up squares. Black's pawns become kind of, you know, inflexible. And he wins a pawn, yeah. But now look, the knight is secure on a4. The bishop is not getting trapped. You've got some play on certain squares here. So I think that was a very materialistic thing we saw. You know, unclear where the queen should go. I think even e1 needs to be considered. e1, e2, I don't know. You know, all three, we have 3 squares for the queen. All 3 squares need to be considered. Queen d3, I don't know. You're up close and personal. This is, of course, a favorite Philidor square. Black now is threatening e4. Very deep. Very deep. So when you play queen d3, you know, I think that's the move that we should be anticipating. And that's why Saiji's talking about queen e1. I also, you know, I see this. I see dead people. You know, bishop a6 type ideas. Not a big deal, though. I mean, there you could play like bishop c4. If bishop a6. So e2 is probably the best. And e1 would interfere with your rook on h1 getting in the game. So I guess we go with queen e2. But you need to make sure you have a plan of action against knight a6 or bishop a6. So queen d3. Now your queen is vulnerable. Knight f6, and now you get forked by e4 after g4, e4. If you didn't lose a piece, you're very lucky. He's a scientist. Now losing a piece, you're without a piece. And I don't know what to recommend, although bishop f4 certainly seems logical. Black is still up a piece, no matter what. You played this, and I think that black needs to consider giving back material now. The knight d5 is tempting because it's like getting an attack against the bishop on e3. Meanwhile, trading pieces is probably a good thing for black. And taking here would also open up some threats against your king on the c-file. So if I were black, I would probably prefer doing that. Nothing materialistic about Sun Prism's opponent. He likes capturing pawns. Now rook dg1. I guess it wasn't doing anything there anyway. Keeping the h3 pawn protected. Knight e6, and now suddenly there's open lines for white. So this maybe made a difference. Like, it doesn't hurt to have your rook there. Yeah, you were going to resign, but decided to try for some attack. Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a little greedy. Knight c5, knight c5, now you have to trade a set of pieces. It's a pity there's no tactics here. Queen d4 almost works. Black has only one move. No, this needs to be seriously considered. I mean, queen d4 right away. Even rook takes g7 check. Am I out of line to think this might work? How, I think he has to take. And then we have a check or a check. So he's going to hide on h8. Black will try to hide on h8. If bishop d4 check, f6. Queen d4 check, f6. Rook g1 check. There's no good interposition, so he has to go to h8. And then, question is, do we have anything? And we're damn close, man. Damn, this looks scary, bro. Queen d4 check, f6. Queen f6, no. Bishop h6 deserves a serious look. I vote for bishop h6. Okay, he has that knight takes b3 check at the end, though, which is kind of annoying. That probably kills it. That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's gonna kill it. Let's see if the computer can find anything. Nope. Nope. Check. f6. And interestingly, if black doesn't have this knight takes b3, this is the only thing that saves him. If your king is on b1, I think he's in trouble. But, nope, there's nothing there. It was close. It had to be investigated. Damn. So you played, okay. Here. But I mean, obviously, the more pieces you trade, the better it gets. I think, objectively, you should have maybe tried it. And now, completely reasonable looking move. Bishop e6. Oh, now it works? Are you kidding me? Oh my god, you have two rooks. I forgot you had two rooks. The one on h1 has just been hiding. Honestly, like, I was skeptical of rook dg1 at first. And then the whole time I've been, like, forgetting you actually have two rooks. Like, what does it matter? Two rooks or one? Here I thought you might have queen f6. I mean, you're damn close to this working. Like after g6, h5. This isn't so clear. I mean, maybe black's winning, but it's still dangerous. That's funny. So if he takes, he gets mated in a few moves. He has to play this. You have queen f6 now. Oh, so you have queen f6, queen h6. He'll have to sack his queen. Oh, that's beautiful. You have a mate with rook g8, because I was only looking at rook h7. Yeah, he probably also... or queen h6 rather. No, he probably like thought you would play this. No, actually not, because there he has bishop f5. It doesn't work at all. Wow, that's a really nice shot with g8. Yeah, yeah, cute tactic at the end there. Bad game, but you know, tactics can override everything. If you're a bad player, you better have some good tactics to back it up. All right, no, but you gotta play the opening properly. You're gonna learn your lesson here. If not today, then you're gonna learn it soon. Okay, Morales. Morales has recovered, I hope, from his tilt from Tuesday. Next week, I'm gonna make it a Swiss, so everybody just calms the hell down. All right. Next week, Tuesday tournament is gonna be a Swiss. We need to all chill out a little bit, and nobody getting angry because people are flagging you. Too many arenas make things a little too interesting. We need a break. All right. So Morales is a VIP. He would have been banned a long time ago if he wasn't. He's playing Loganizo. Loganizo. This is Blitz. Now that's a funny thing. I could have sworn he played H3 against me. Yeah. H4 even. I like how Morales plays H4 against me, but against like a random 2300, he plays D4. No, he mixes it up, I think. Actually, he's played both against me. You rage quitted after Chess Riddler flagged you down to pieces. Well, yeah, he knocked out Morales as well. But I was angry because Dinekis, I had to like give away my pieces for a draw. I was up a queen and had to like sacrifice a rook or something. Had to sacrifice for a draw. I was lucky to draw, but that's part of the game. You know, the bottom line is like we've got to manage in non-increment time. You've got to manage your time yourself. You know, increment kind of forces you to manage it and manage the time for you. But no one to blame but ourselves. I know it's easy to say that, but so this is an interesting line. It's not technically a hyper accelerated dragon. It's like a different version because the knight is on the other square. It's like a closed Sicilian hyper accelerated dragon hybrid. Normally, we have this position with knight on f3, which I'm very familiar with. I've had some games against Morales. He played a bunch of moves. He tried bishop g5. He tried bishop e3. I wouldn't be surprised if he played like bishop. Let's see what else. Well, bishop g5 and bishop e3 for sure. So it turns out bishop e5 is a move. So number one move, I feel like whenever I say that, I feel like I'm like, what's his name? What was the name of the host on Family Feud? Not the African American guy who does it now, but the original one. Richard Dawkins. Was it Richard Dawkins? Is that his name? From Hogan's Heroes. He was the best. Number one answer is women's underwear. So The number one answer is knight f3, but, that move doesn't look that exciting. You know what? That just transposes to the other line. So that's boring. You're just transposing to the normal hyper-accelerated dragon line with knight c3. So this is more interesting. It has some independent value. Dawkins? Richard Dawkins? Yeah, Richard Dawson. Thanks for correcting me with apparently Richard Dawson. You're like, Sun Prism is funny. He doesn't know what he's talking about, but he used like the internet to figure it out. Yeah, I'm getting really old. Richard Dawson, of course, not Richard Dawkins. I knew that it didn't sound right. Richard Dawson. I don't know, man. I mean, I may be getting Alzheimer's. Now, scientists are claiming there's a way of using MRIs to determine, like, 9 years in advance. Some scientists in Australia and, like, the UK have found 80% correlation, something like that. With 80% success, they can use MRI scans to actually predict whether or not people are going to get Alzheimer's. Richard Dawson was awesome. He was like kissing all the women on the show and shit. He would have been totally like arrested, dude, today. Like, he would have so many lawsuits against him, right? He would just kiss everybody, and like, who knows what he did like behind the scenes. See, I miss the old days. Number one answer is... Alright. Bishop e3. Americans love British accents. Alright, so we have Bishop e3, Knight c6, Queen d2. Yeah, Hogan's Heroes. He was a very successful from that show, you know. He was in movies. Before your time, Sun Prism. It was a good time before your time. Richard Dawson. I'm really worried about myself. I think like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have fumbled on Richard Dawson. That's why we're down to 8 viewers. Alright, anyway. No, back to real chess here. So, this is Morales' blitz game. Bishop g7, f3. So, basically, this happened when I was black. The number one answer is... Yeah, it was a funny show. If black has no counterplay against e4, white can launch an attack, but the knight on g1 is slow. So that's one of the things that happens here. It reminds me of the center attack. This is all fine and good, right? And this great monster pawn on e4. But at the end of the day, the problem is this knight is on g1. It's not on d4, like in the Sicilian, in a normal Sicilian. So, you know, how much does that factor in? Like, we have the g4, h4, h5, but we have no knight developed. But basically, black has to factor that into his calculations. Is black castling on? Do you say that every game? Sun Prism is playing the French defense. In every game, we see a Sicilian. In every game, he's asking if black is castling long. I would say, like, in the Sicilian defense, the statistics are something like kingside castle 60%, not castle 25%, you know, and then Queenside castle like 15%. Well, to avoid pawn storm, I think that black gotta keep an open mind. The first thing that strikes me is how few games there are here. Another thing is, this is an important variation because I could play this with black. But is it my imagination, or does f3, you know, the whole thing is just a tiny bit slow. So as an accelerated dragon player, like I really want to play d5. Is there any way that black could sack a pawn? First of all, black can like not castle for as long as possible. The second option is to castle and just withstand the attack. But the third option would be to distract white with like an advance on the queen side. I'm literally thinking like, okay, could you do like b5 now? I mean, you could, but I mean, is this justified? The b2 pawn looks a little lonely. A game by Dubov that makes it good. I don't know. I don't know about that. There's also the fact that the other top two games besides Dubov are both correspondence games. You know, and Demchenko and Dubov are like equally good. So you can flip a coin for the winner of that game. But I don't like black's move here, h6. It's kind of the kind of thing that you would do in like a closed Sicilian. This is more of an open Sicilian. No, it's definitely an interesting try, though. It's borrowing a page from Leonid Stein. I think it's weird that like 11 out of 16 people castled. There's another approach. Yes. I was just thinking that, Sun Prism. It's not so dynamic, but you could play b6. Like I was talking about b5, which is it looks like b5 is it's a dubious pawn sacrifice. It's not the craziest thing I've ever come up with. There's some value to that, but b6 is a much more reasonable idea. Right. b6, bishop b7, maybe rook c8. You know, you might not even... Roman used to do this all the time in Accelerated Dragons. He loved to do that, like a double fianchetto. No, this has some value. Like, but I do think that d6 is probably the natural move. The other move that comes to consideration just doesn't look possible. Asterbate, would you play e6 here? You would never do that, right? That's just too crazy. The dark squares. This, I mean, it could be like white could go too far, you know, like trying to refute it. And maybe it's not that bad. Man, I mean, bishop c5 isn't good. Jesus. This is playable for black. They say that, like, you know, an attack in the center, it should be the answer to a flank attack. So when you're sitting there, you're black, and you're like, okay, my opponent is gonna, like, assault me with, like, you know, Kevin Spacey kingside. I'm just kidding. Sorry. I was just thinking of Richard Dawson. I couldn't help myself. If the kingside attack is coming, maybe we preempt him. What would Asterbate do? The unbelievable e6. With the idea of d5, because the strike in the center is the answer to a flank attack. So you have a lot of options here with black. Alright, anyways. This is experimental. Morales develops. I mean, black is like, okay, I'm just going to play h6, but I can't castle. So what does Morales do? He's not going to do like g4, h4. This makes sense. I would say you either castle yourself or you develop your pieces. Black has compromised himself by playing h6. Now d5, no, I mean d6, knight f4. Okay, knight f4. This is always a problem. And white like doesn't want to do this because probably we have issues with knight e5. White has to be careful not to just end up like Tempe down in a dragon here though. So the plan isn't to like go knight d4 necessarily. Here, hitting d5. Now black castles. Yeah, that does make you wonder. Is it really logical for Morales to have this like battery and then like close it off with knight f4, letting black castle? I think you should probably castle. Now b5 could be even more real though. Maybe we need to look at knight e2 and say, look, dude, you should just castle. Probably you should just castle. Do what he's not doing. And then decide, based on what black does, what to do. There's a chance you might bring your bishop out and play it like a Yugoslav attack. Alright, here, and you let him castle. Okay. Still, it's still good. The h6 will have to be defended. At some point, I think black should consider both h5 and king h7. I don't want to overanalyze this because it's like a fast game. But Morales has to be careful with these Tolnai Tibor type of piece sacks, like in the dragon. When you play g4, you can get hit by this kind of like sacrifices where you've got a lot of pressure against maybe b2. That's probably too much. It's a little too much. I don't know. I'm thinking like, okay, if king here, you have what? Bishop e6. He doesn't want to do that. One of the nice things about knight f4 is that he discouraged bishop e6. I mean, it's playable, but it's not great. I just realized that, you know, knight f4 may be it may be directly against like bishop e6 more than anything. Not that he's trying to play knight d5 so much. So king b1, and then what does black do? He doesn't really have a great move now. I think white could even play knight fd5 or something. Queen a5 was decent. Okay, but g4 I'm not sure about. I really am not sure about g4. So bishop d7, and now h4, and then there. But this isn't really a big deal. I mean, you have a3, exactly. And then, yeah. I think that black has failed. You have failed. Got my mic in the wrong place. Sorry. I apologize. So, does that sound better? This is a disaster. And even on c5, the knight has no pressure on e4, really. So it looks like, I mean, white could just play knight to d5 with the clear advantage here. If you want to play it safe, I would trade queens. This sucks for black. I would play it safe. You've got a massive advantage. But he goes for the knockout. This is good too. This breaks our structure. So I don't know, man. I mean, white has a lot of good moves here. Bishop c4 looks decent, but black can take. I don't really want... I really don't think I want this to happen. He does it, but it's different now. I mean, there's a pawn on h6 now. This doesn't bother me so much. You know, I don't mind this. I would really mind it if black structure, if we hadn't won this pawn on h6, but now it's a problem. Takes. The pawn on h6 is pretty invasive. It's not that destructive of itself, you know. It's like it interferes with black's position. And here you play g5, you get knight d5, which has been in a position for ages. So he just plays this. And Morales doesn't even care. But frankly, I mean, probably has a lot of moves. Like c4 has to be good. There's this here. I would seriously consider playing like king d2, and I think that white has a huge advantage. Yeah, this hurts. I really don't like giving up the dark square bishop here. If you want me to point to like a concrete mistake, I would say this is definitely not a good idea. I don't see a clear threat, and this exchange, like, we can take with the pawn and fix our structure. The first move I thought of was king d2. Honestly. I think this is definitely a bad move. And black has chances to hold now. And then Morales opens up on g6, so I missed this. This was the idea. But why e5 right away? I guess he figured it was more sneaky that way. So black has... I think we have different philosophies here, white and black, about respective, like, pawn structures. I'm not a big fan of Morales' pawn structure. And it wouldn't be surprising to me if black could hold this. He may have missed bishop f5. I think that white has squandered most, if not all, of his advantage. Yeah, the computer thinks it's like slightly better, 0.7. But I don't think that white is winning anymore, you know? We have all isolated pawns all the time. It sounds like a phone company advertisement. Alright. Yeah, this is like, dude, ugly. This went completely south. Your structure sucks. Maybe Morales, like, yeah, he's in time pressure. He's facing a high-rated opponent. There's like an element of panic that I see when Morales plays sometimes, where he is a good game, but he panics in time pressure. So at the end of the day, the smoke clears, white has 4 Isolani, and black has a better structure. But it's still close enough that it's probably like equal. Basically about equal. But, you know, from my perspective, he lost on time. The move that bothered me the most was bishop takes c5. You know, if we really have to talk about a specific move here. Both sides, one side has a minute and a half. I think you played everything fine up until now. But if you take this position and you think about it, like what is our advantage? You know, why is white better in this position? And it's a lot like the Velimirovich game in a sense, because it's the dark square bishop. This bishop is important because it's protecting that pawn on h6, which is really sticking it to black. And it's also important because it's unopposed. Both sides have a light square bishop, but black doesn't have a dark square bishop. If I play this and you take on d3, I'm going to take with the pawn. I'm going to fix my structure. I'm going to have the island from hell here, cloud 9. Now this is an extremely strong structure for white, and virtually unbreakable. So white is much better. Plus 1.7. That was Morales' biggest mistake. All right, onward and upward. Yabatis is here. I got a game by somebody named Blind Bill Blunder. Who is this? I don't know any blind bills. Oh, me when I miss stuff. I had this funny experience in poker last week. There was this hand where I wasn't playing blindfolded, but I might as well. There was I don't know, $700 pot on the table, and we went all in because the flop was King 4-9, and I had a set of nines. I had pocket nines, and I make set of nines with three nines on the board. I was sure my opponent didn't have 3 kings. He could have 3 fours. He could have anything, 2 pairs. A good player. And at the end, we showed down our cards, and he's like, King 4, 2 pairs. And he's expecting to lose. And so I'm like, 3 of kind nines. And I show down my cards, and they're not nines. So they were jacks, not nines. That's a slight problem. But I believe they were nines. That's the important thing. You know, you believe they're nines. It's just a $700 pot. Nothing special. I believe that they were nines. Blind Bill Blunder. Isn't there a big difference between those cards? Well, they're in the same range, 9, 10, jack, middle value cards. Between 8 and jack is medium, considered medium strength cards. Medium size pairs. For me, it's in the same range. But anyway, just reminds me of Blind Bill Blunder. So Blind Bill Blunder is playing blind, and his opponent is not. Or maybe they are. But I haven't seen this game yet, so this should be fun. The funniest thing about that hand where I lost was that my opponent asks how many times I want to run it, because he thinks he's losing, or somebody asked. And I said just once. And if I had known I didn't have 3 nines, I would have said 3 times. Maybe I would have won at least a third of the pot somehow by luck. Actually, his hand, isn't that secure, but even just a king is good enough. All right. D4, D5, C4, knight F6. And now you're like, oh, goody. C takes d5. Thanks for not supporting your center. Spectacular Camel played this correctly, I believe. I've long supported the thesis that knight f3 is the best move here, contrary to the obvious looking e4. E4 allows knight f6, the Marshall's like main idea. And Marshall's main idea was to counterattack after knight c3, e5. And this is kind of the point of the opening, yeah. And I think you might be, you might be surprised to learn that I think these games are correspondence games. But anyway, that was Marshall's main point. Sometimes people will do like knight b6. This is like a really inferior, it's like an inferior Grunfeld. So after knight f6, e5, knight d5, the other option, black is basically playing the Queen's Gambit accepted knight f6 variation, with the exception that his pawn on c4 is already gone. So it's like a slightly inferior Queen's Gambit accepted, because white doesn't have to play bishop takes c4. He could play other moves instead. Anyways, I think knight f3 is better. The one drawback is it allows bishop f5, as our old friend, sort of, Kopek Daniel played against me. Mamajaro prefers g6, going to a bad pseudo Grunfeld. And so Ubatis' opponent plays knight c6. Now this is a move I faced a lot against the random people. And this is very disturbing. The Estonian, now GM, he was probably an IM in 2003, Kanep lost with white in this position to some guy named Chen. And, my best guess is that Kanep probably played in the Olympiad for Estonia and lost this position with white. That's pretty disturbing. I mean, that's pretty bad, man. His opponent's 2300, playing the worst opening ever in the history of chess. And he loses with white. After e4, knight f6. After e4, knight f6, white has d5. But Kanep played e5, which probably isn't quite as good. Anyway, we had this like a bunch of times. Black loses a piece after knight takes e4 because of bishop e3 or bishop e2. There are various ways for white to win a piece here because of queen a4 check. Yeah. But your opponent played an even worse move. I'm pretty sure knight f6 is probably the best try. But he plays knight b4. And, yeah, I mean, there's no justification for that whatsoever. I feel like I saw this. Maybe I saw it. And we talked about it last week. Okay. So, knight db4. Here, I don't know. You could play d5 or a3, but actually it looks like d5 wins a piece. You had another game. Really? That's insane. Because a3 doesn't necessarily win a piece after knight a6. Or does it? Maybe it does. You had the same position. Maybe b4 wins a piece anyway, right? Black... It's crazy. Black has no way to not lose a piece here. Because... No, maybe he does. He has this. No, he d5. So no matter what he does, he's going to lose a piece. This is early acerbate. climate protesters are like they're gonna like destroy this if we're not careful. Very valuable early acerbate. Looks like A3 is good as well. Yeah, so he's losing a piece now. Ain't no defending that piece. Guys, Spectacular Camel is playing this blind. This is a blind account. That's why he's 1,300. So this isn't a sighted game. This is a blindfold game. Acerbate. Where's everybody? Where'd everybody go? They've gone to Betsons. Apparently, people don't want to study chess seriously. This is a very nice theme, though. Blacksmith played it. Bishop d7. Now, which one do you take? Obviously, the knight on b4, because there's a fork here. Okay, we have to take on b4. You're attacking the other knight. That knight is sad, but it has a fianchetto future. And now you bought us. This is different from the other game. I remember. I think that we could maybe fuse. There's this one card in Hearthstone where you can fuse like two cards together. Not the only card. It's a thing. If we could fuse, like magnetize, as they call it in Hearthstone, Acerbate and Spectacular Camel. What we need is like Acerbate's coordination, and Spectacular Camel is like more likely to follow principles. You know, if we could get Acerbate to follow principles, we could fuse you into a better player, Acerbate. Rather than knight e5, moving the same piece twice, bishop b5, Yubanis is developing. A sneaky attack against the queen on b4, bishop d7, queen d7. And again, a very principled move. It's not a certainty, no. This is what I was talking about earlier today. Like, when you're not tilted and you're caring, you know how to follow the principles. You almost have, like, multiple chess personalities, depending on your state of mind. Acerbate, like, can't control himself. You could make, like, a conscious decision not to play principally. For Acerbate, it's like he can't help himself. Remember, it's blindfold. A really good move here, you know, centralizing the queen. But more than that, it attacks g7. Now, had black played bishop c5, white could have played conservatively, or he could have taken the pawn on g7. If I'm playing blindfold, I would probably prefer the conservative move. Having said that, if you go queen takes g7, castles queenside, at least black maybe has a chance to create some chaos. So I think objectively, the thing is, like, this isn't a live over the board blindfold game. This is an online blindfold game. And you can't assume that blindfold Bill Blunder is blind. He's not blindfold Bill Blunder, he's blind Bill Blunder. So it just sounds like a name. You know, I don't think that your opponent like really knows you're blindfolded. You're playing blind. So if he knew, he might play differently. That's like my thing with forward chess, where every move you make has to be either forward or sideways. You're never allowed to move backwards. If your opponent knows you're doing it, you know, it can be exploited. If your opponent doesn't know you're blindfold, yeah, they can if they know you're blindfold, they can try to exploit you not being sighted, like stealing your bag from the table. It's easy to take advantage of blind chess players. So e takes d5, e takes d5, castles, knight c3, bishop c5 now. We got to get our king out of the center. And here we see an inaccuracy, which is significant by you, Camel. Objectively, Black has lost a piece, and he's in a dubious situation, but he has a little bit of hope because of this, file here. So you should have probably played Queen d3. This is the kind of little thing that makes a difference. Maybe you didn't feel safe about the position of the queen in your mind. Here's a neat idea, knight c6, for example. Now, if you don't see that you have queen a6 check, Black might play knight c6 and, jump his knight into the game, back into the game. First he would play, rook check, okay, bishop e3, or maybe king f1, I don't know. And then he has this trick, here, and then you go, queen a6, and then they move the king, and you take, and you move the king. Am I not allowed to do that? And then take, and then here, check, knight takes, here, check, knight here. And that's a very bad way to end the blindfold game. Just hypothetically, right? That would be a bad way to end the blindfold game. Oof. But that is the kind of thing that can happen if, for example, you're not 100% sure where everything is. Accidents happen. So here he plays queen d1, guarding the back rank, putting the queen on the safest possible square, though less active. Check. And now I say, interesting try. The alternative was king f1. Well, I should say one alternative was king f1. You could also play bishop e3, but it looks bad. Bishop e3 allows chop, chop, and knight c4, for example. So you could still castle out of it. I think if only that were a legal move. Wait. That is a legal move. God damn, I thought so. Alright. Sometimes I get confused. So queen d1, check. I was thinking about king f1. Knight e2, good move, but he can pin you. So I think that Black here... I think Black has to consider going all in. Well, actually, he has a couple of good moves. Consider going all in with rook takes e2 check. It's probably too much. So, sorry. He does have this, but that's awkward. I would say this is very awkward. The queen already has good range where it's at on the white squares. So, and he doesn't really want to put the queen where it's obstructing his rook, but he wants to prevent castling. So, if this doesn't work, and if this doesn't work, Black has this. And that move actually looks legit. Bling. Look, if you guys aren't going to come to my stream, I'm not going to stream anymore. Where is everybody today? Everybody just comes, makes a lot of donations, and then leaves. This place sucks. Where's my "This Place Sucks" t-shirt, by the way? I haven't seen that in a while. Where's my frickin'... Alright. So queen b5. I can make shorter streams. They donate early. Go big or go home. They're literally, go big or go... Where's my freaking task? Where's my taskbar? It's driving me nuts. Windows, what are you doing? I don't know, the taskbar doesn't freaking work. And I have no friends online. Mr. Slowhand is listening. Yeah! Alright. I think I got bit by a bug. Anyway. So this was correspondence. No, this was blindfold correspondence. Queen b5 looks like a good try. This, I'd be a little worried if I was... Seriously, I was worried. Mr. Coffee's not here. I'd be a little worried if I was blindfolded here. But this move allows us to castle. So this is like a really key moment. I mean, you can run for it. I mean, I'm castling. Instead, he grabbed the pawn. I gotta admit, yeah, g4 is a little scary, but I think I'd rather castle. It's a free pawn on an enemy half-open file. But honestly, like, if you do get like a piece on g3, that's a pretty rock solid structure. No, I mean, your move needs to be very seriously taken into consideration. I mean, he's doing like a Hennig Shara Gambit type of g5. If you castle, he has g4, and now it's a little awkward. Because your knight can get trapped on g5. It has nowhere to go. You know, there's literally no square. So this is bad. I mean, h6 and you lose a piece. Well, let's say you probably lose a piece, because I can't calculate everything. There may be some weird resource like b4 or something, I don't know. But I wouldn't go there. I'll have to settle for like a different square, like h4, which is always my favorite in Hennig Shara. You go to h4, you get like bishop e7. That's wonderful. Because I really want to have this happen. This is great. You're still winning, but it could get a little messy. You know, that's the point. So you take the pawn. You're like, screw it. And the guy plays queen f5 now. And I'm still like squinting to understand what's happening here. Did you were aware you could castle? Or maybe he thought. Do you guys get the feeling? I'm getting the feeling he pulled like a Pragnanata. Or that was Pragnanata's opponent who like illegally castled. You guys ever had a game where... Has anyone ever heard of a game where someone could castle and they thought they couldn't? Because I've like, you know, I've seen the opposite a lot. Where people like move their king and they forgot and they try to castle. Has anyone here ever heard of a game where someone didn't castle because they thought it was illegal? Like, seriously? Maybe you had some dementia, or you just simply analyzed the variation where you moved your king and then it like got stuck in your head. It seems like something I would do, you know, seriously. What if he thinks he can't castle? Spectacular Camels, I mean, Mr. Slow's like, no, I've never heard of that happening either. But it sounds like something I'll do at the World Senior Team Championship. Okay, Uber Driver says Korchnoi asked if castling was legal. I mean, what was it, like the diagonal with the rook on h1? How could Korchnoi have asked if castling was legal? That's really insane. That sounds suspicious to me. Like, what was the joke? Korchnoi of all people. Yeah, it was a mental game. Korchnoi did it as a gamesmanship thing. That's different. I mean, like, literally. Alright. So, bishop d2. I mean, I really wanted your bishop on g3. Like, you could go here. But my bigger question is, why is black not castling? Maybe he didn't castle for a reason. And maybe he's right. You know, maybe there's something here. This rook g8 thing is not a joke. Like, bishop h4, queen takes f3. Duh. There's actually something here. Now, it didn't work because of, like, knight g3. But I can see how you could have some self-doubt. But, I mean, I think if you're afraid to castle, you probably shouldn't take the pawn on g5. Alright, bishop d2, rook g8. Oh my god. B4. Yeah, D2 has a point though. Oh my god, man. So he's preventing the bishop takes f2 sacrifice. Is that the point? You're preventing the bishop f2 sacrifice. I just got bit by a freaking mosquito in my own room. Alright. At least it wasn't a big one. Yeah, this is insane. Bishop takes f2. The guy did that. Oh my god, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. I didn't think he would really do that. He actually took on f2 check. Dude, that's insane. This guy has one move here, and it looks pretty interesting. Rook takes g2. I am literally, like, shitting myself now if I'm white here after rook takes g2. Honestly, I was more worried about rook takes g2. No shit. Of course you're more worried about rook takes g2. This is the only move. It's nothing special, just the only move for him. Oh my god, man. This is the punishment of your materialism. And basically, at this point, you would have, as far as I could see, no choice. Your only move is taking his bishop. And then queen takes f3 threatens mate on f2. Castling is really illegal now. Rook f1 or your only other option is bishop e3. Bishop e3 is really scary. Because now he has this. I don't feel good, mommy. Can I go home? Mama says this is not okay. No, this is not good. Bishop e3 is out. So I think we have to play rook f1. But I don't want to be white against Paul Morphy here. I don't want to be part of this miniature. All four black pieces are really well coordinated. The fact that you're up a piece doesn't matter that much. So yeah, it's coming in. I mean, this looks kind of nasty. Or knight b2, knight d3. Well, anyway, yeah, rook takes g2 looks... You're lucky you weren't playing Paul. Rook hg8, b4, bishop takes f2 check. And now that's like, okay, thank you. King takes... Yeah, to be fair to Ibadas, he was blindfolded. Not easy to play Morphy blindfolded. Queen takes d5. And bishop f4. Everything is under control. Black has no threat. And this is perfect. Preventing rook e4 while simultaneously attacking the knight at c4. Black has no good checks, and you've got a mate at c7. Oh no, oh my god, he tricked you. Black played rook e4 now. And poor Ibadas, like, in his mind, it's like a bluff. You're playing blindfolded. In your mind, you're like, oh wait, did he play f5 or not? Do you want to find out if he played f5 or not? You're like, wait a minute. I'm up 2 pieces. Screw that. You know, I don't care. I don't care, you know, if you played f5 or not. You also have knight to c3, forking his rook and his queen. You have like 2 crushing moves here. And now you saw it. Oh no. And now his opponent is like totally desperate and played knight a3. And you still don't believe in queen takes e4. So rook takes e4, knight takes e2, and you knew his queen was in take, so that's good. But it would probably be better to take his rook first. If you took the rook first, he has queen takes, and he's back. Although you're winning, you know, it would have been a mess. The old rook and 2 knights and a bishop versus the queen endgame. Yeah, we don't want that. That's a little too confusing. We'll take that, please. Here, 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 and now 2 knights up. Now if you can reach, you know, 2 knights up endgame, we'll take it. Mating net. Oh no. Oh no, the stalemate. Defending b5. Oh no. I made nice job. Alright. Great game. Keeping in mind that it was blindfold. Even then, it wasn't bad. Good job. Okay, guys. So what we got left? Acerbate. I feel like we already did Acerbate's game, but we didn't. And then Nefedov. I don't know if Nefedov is still with us. Okay, Acerbate, you're white. Thanks, guys. It's a small social circle here. Let's make a new title. Free ice cream. No. Serious analysis. That's enough. No, I don't have any inspiration. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. All right. Damn it, none of my keys work. Is that a problem? None of my keys work. Free subs. So if I say free subs, I could be talking about Mr. Coffee's here, finally. Phew. They had 12 viewers. I was worried. Mr. Coffee, bring the team. Dude, turn on all your computers. I've got my guinea pigs logged on. Alright. So this is Acerbate. You came just in time for Acerbate's game. So Acerbate is white. Knight f3, d6. This has been a problem. He likes to be stubborn here and play b3. But I think that it's tough, you know. The Queen's Indian is not that effective. Alright. b3, e5, bishop b2, knight f6. And I've played this way myself with black. Against Acerbate, I mean specifically. Just last week or whatever. I've been trying to do this. I also had the like really deep thought. I was talking about this with Sung Prism on the stream that I mean basically playing the King's Indian is the King's Indian attack at least or whatever. It's just very lazy, you know, I mean you're playing like a very lazy type of setup. But I mean in a way White's setup is lazy too. He's not really trying to be combative. So we have e3. That's right, you didn't submit the same game twice, did you? You're not doing this on a regular basis, I hope. Bishop to b5 check. Please promise me you're not doing this on a regular basis. I kind of want to know, because this is the second time I've seen him do this. See, this is the way that the Acerbate's mind works in mysterious ways. He's always been a big fan of like inducements with bishops and knights. This is beyond Nimzovich. I think we're seeing like really high level. This isn't hypermodernism. It's like ultra hypermodernism. He's inducing c6 to weaken black's pawn chain. This is it's unbelievable. Who would ever think of doing that? You know, you like play bishop b5 check in order to induce c6, so black now has, you know, less pawn chain to support e5. I mean, there is a risk, of course, and I'm kind of tongue-in-cheek here, but the constructive move, with a constructive move or two, black might be able to shift his entire structure up one, like, diagonal. So I think it's easy to throw this out and say, no, it must be the mind of a genius. I agree. Like, but let me ask, guys, what do you think? Like, black's best move is in this position? Because I would always have just like assumed like, okay, c6, but I'm beginning to have second thoughts about c6. Maybe Asterbate is a sort of twisted genius. I don't know if he's a member of Mensa. But I'll tell you, I love it when people put that in their like profile. Or whatever, you know, whatever profile. You're a member of Mensa. I'm a member of FIDE. Really proud of that, too. Black's best move is king f8, c6, knight c6, bishop d7, or knight on bd7, or queen d7. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Knight fd7, sorry. Knight fd7. So Mr. Slow says c6. And, you know, that's what I would have assumed. In most cases. And the computer will probably agree, but I do think, you know, the other moves are definitely okay. So the engine's going to say knight on bd7. Right? Like this, I'm going to go with knight on bd7. The engine says different. Well, I would have assumed c6 at first glance too, but when I really started thinking about it, I'm thinking like knight bd7. I'm not sure this is right. I haven't looked, you know. But it's embarrassing. White's bishop on b5 is embarrassing. You don't want to trade your bishop off for a knight. If engine says different, it sucks. Oh, that's if you didn't check. Oh, okay. Well, all right. I wouldn't be surprised if knight on bd7 was better. Knight fd7. Undeveloping with the idea of f5, of course. If Emery Tate smoked enough dope, he would probably like come up with that as well. But we can get carried away. But I think this is pretty principled. You know, obviously bishop d7 is fine too. But I'm thinking this move might cast down on White's whole setup. Whereas bishop d7 is just an exchange.
Mr. Slow cheated. He couldn't resist. He cheated and checked the engine. That's what I figured. Knight on BD7 would be second, but I wouldn't have been entirely surprised if Knight on BD7 was first. It has its drawbacks. It interferes with the bishop on C8 a little. You didn't. You're like specifically saying Knight BD7 is second by a small margin. I didn't. So you didn't. So this is like a very specific guess. All right, here we go. Ooh, it's close. Ooh, it's close. But I would expect Knight BD7 would do better in the longer lines. Give it some time. I mean, when it gets to depth 30, it might be that Knight on BD7 is better. I don't think we've given it enough time. We got to run it overnight. Dude, at move 24, I mean, depth 24 is just 12 moves deep. And it's 1/10 of a pawn. I need to click plus for it to go deeper. All right. I think Knight on BD7 is more likely to improve as it goes deeper, but it's not. The opposite is happening. It's actually like C6 is gaining ground. That's funny. I thought Knight BD7 would do better in the long run, but it doesn't. So finally, at depth 33, it's drawn a very clear conclusion. The Knight BD7 doesn't cut it compared to C6. Wow. I have to say, I didn't think the evaluation would be so much in favor one or the other. I thought like 1/10 of a pawn maybe. But ultimately at depth 33, it's like 0.4 versus 0.1. Well, I mean, in any case, after Knight on BD7, where's the bishop going? I mean, the thing about bishop on B5 with Knight on BD7 is that you're not chasing it right away, but you still can attack it later, and it still can get trapped, you know. Alright, I like Knight on BD7 better. And the computer likes bishop F1. And Petrosian might agree. You know, I don't know. And honestly, that's hyper modern chess. And Petrosian was pretty good. But not acerbate. Too deep for acerbate, bishop F1. Okay, so we go bishop E2, castles. And now having induced the move C6, he plays C4. And now we have the lever C5. Notice, Tartakover in the house. Somehow, the split is right on the evals on the line, so viewers can't see anything but main evaluation. Oh. Yeah, I really need to fix that. I hate that. Of course, I can't plan on where the evaluation is. I'm not usually using that, but I'd like to get that modified, actually. I'll see what we can do. So black spots the threat of C5. Actually, it's an interesting question. Let me ask you a question. So if black were to play a random move here, like, I don't know, whatever. Let's say rook e8. That's pretty good. Should white play c5? You know, favorite. Actually, rook e8 is significant. Because when I take on e7, I'm not attacking the rook with check. But let's do a more neutral move. h6. If I play c5, you play e4, I play pawn takes d6. You play pawn takes f3, I play pawn takes e7. I win. So you can't play e4, or if you do, you have to recapture. Well, you can play e4. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. The question would be, is c5 a good idea or not? In any case, all right, black plays knight a6, a good move, preventing c5 and just developing. Now Asterbate played a3. This isn't great. He has an obsession with this. Asterbate has like move fetishes, and I guess we all do. But with him, like it's very strong fixations. A3, rook c1, bishop d3, bishop e1. Oh, ACTs, it doesn't really matter. That's just not that important. Nice to see you. So, yeah, I mean, this looks slow. We're effectively playing some kind of c3 Sicilian reversed now. a3 is really not called for. And Acer needs to keep in mind that move isn't a high priority necessarily at this point. You're kind of losing time. Knight c5. And now b4. Okay, we played b3, now b4. Great. So you're playing the Polish down a tempo now. Black also has a5 to try to break your structure. Fine. I think white should probably make a decision here. I'm not sure I like allowing e4. So you play d3. That seems correct. But I want to go out on a tangent now and say a little bit of a tangent. One of the things that I've always believed, and it served me well since I lost the game back in like 1992, is a theory that the hedgehog doesn't work particularly well against the King's Indian attack. Now, to be fair, black isn't really playing the King's Indian attack. It's a kind of like worse version. It's more like an old Indian attack. So bishop on e7 instead of g7. The knight is on f6, blocking the f pawn from advancing. But my whole theory about the hedgehog is that hedgehog it's inherently kind of like a wait-in and c, and it's no hedgehog. Well, it's not a hedgehog from a theoretical standpoint, Mr. Slope, but white's setup is a hedgehog type of setup. What we're doing here. I mean, this structure and the kind of wait and put everything on the second and third ranks with knight d2 and it's kind of hedgehog, not a real hedgehog from a like Sicilian defense theoretical standpoint. But the hedgehog formation, we should call it. So this looks a little fishy. b6. Asterbate castling. That's my man. That's my man. Nice. This is bringing back this horrible memory when I lost to Tomasz Gelashvili. He did like the Polish defense against my. He did the Polish defense against something like a King's Indian attack. Mr. Slow is like a hedgehog purist. But I'm speaking of like generally white's configuration. b6 looks odd. And just like in the Roy Lopez, I mean, the bishop already has a diagonal here. Why does it need another one? Going to b7, but weakening some squares. And now another funny move, h6. So he just like makes random pawn moves. Warning! We should get like merch, you know. I know, we should have gotten merch a long time ago. Warning makes random pawn moves. This player makes random pawn moves. Yeah, we can give it to our opponents. Okay. H6 with the idea of knight h7? Or you're just being Simon Williams? So normally when we play a hedgehog formation, we're going to play knight d2. Knight d2, rook e1. Bring the bishop back to f1. Basically what I'm talking about is a Breyer type of idea in the Roy Lopez. This could be a Roy Lopez, right? Where you're playing knight b8 and knight d7. You know, so here's the thing. Do you want to play knight c3 and block your bishop on b2? Or do you want to be really a master hypermodernist and just put the knight on d2 and pretend you played knight c3, knight b1 already? Because ultimately this knight is going to get in the way of the bishop, and it's also going to get in the way if Mr. Slow's c-file opens up. So I think this is a much more common move, more standard. Knight c3 feels more aggressive, but it may not be as good. And then that. It's like, why did you play b6, bro? Why did he play b6? b6, what was the point of that move? I mean, if not to play bishop b7, then I don't really understand. Black 1673, that's not bad. I feel like he's like flipping a coin. You know, kingside or queenside, kingside or queenside. Now, plays b6, then h6, then bishop d7, then knight h7. If I had to bet, I would expect Black's next moves to be g6 followed by knight g7, and then you definitely know this guy is trolling you. I mean, he could play g6, rook e8, bishop f8, bishop g7. But it looks like he's trying to create like a kind of design with his pieces or something. g6, knight g7, rook b8, rook b7, queen c8, queen c7. You know, put everything on the 7th rank. So Asterbate's getting better, in my opinion. This is an interesting position. Black has control of e4. If you're to play d4, Black plays e4. He now takes the pressure off of e4, and boom! Asterbate strikes like a snake. Like a mongoose. I'm proud of this move. He did a game, he showed me a game today where he was white in another kind of English type structure, and he didn't do d4. When it was very strong, a very strong break in the center. And now here he's doing d4. And this is such a fundamental move because you got no e4 plus. You got your whole life plus. A little Fargo reference. Plus, the e5 pawn is not supported. And so how are you going to protect it, bro? Bishop f6? Maybe we got this now. So, hello! I was wondering how to get the knight out of the way of my bishop. So f6, that looks desirable. And if this happened, you know 100% knight h4 is coming next. Because that's Asterbate's like favorite move. And then the Aster mate on this diagonal. Now d4 is a really good move. Black has to take. He like literally has to take. There is no other move, and it's horrible. It's horrible. I think he has to take. You know, and now which way do you recapture? probably with a knight. Because if you take with the pawn, I mean, that's playable, but I think that this square is a little bit funky. I don't really like giving his knight f4. So I think knight takes. You have control of f5. He would probably exchange. And then, as usual, the safer way to take is with the pieces. So I think take with the queen, threatening, discover, threatening knight d5, basically. If bishop f6, we pull the queen back, and we're good to go. Well, actually, no. If bishop f6, we take the pawn. So this is a good position. So f5, he just loses a pawn. The guy just went off the side of the building, and he's dead. He tried to do a Spider-Man without the suction cups up the side of the building. And if losing one pawn wasn't bad enough, there goes another one. Oof. Yeah, flawless. Very nice. Rocking that dark square bishop. Now it's not so easy to say what white should play. The knight at g5 looks kind of awkward. Tempting to go for the queen exchange here, I would say. I think Velimirovich, yeah, he probably has to. I mean, this looks so dangerous for black. He probably has to avoid the exchange of queens if you play queen d6. And exchanging is bad because of bishop takes. And now, well, it's queen's hanging, it's rook's hanging. So black probably has to play queen f7 there. Obviously, white has a huge advantage. But I'm not sure. You have other moves. Maybe knight d4. I was thinking that f3 might be a useful inclusion. Incisors. So you took. Okay, this is okay because he can take with the queen, right? I like that he can take with the queen. Yeah, this is like getting gunned down in a gangland fight by a spray of machine gun fire. What's happening to your opponent here? He has like no bulletproof vest, nothing. He's just getting sprayed with bullets. There's like zero chance for survival. Knight takes g5, rook c7. Now e6 is in the works. Bishop c4 check. It's brutal. You even have bishop e5. But if only you could make something work on that. I think he's been inspired by our Velimirovich games from Mr. Slow. Check, king h8, two bishops, e6. Does this work? It does work. Black has knight e6, though. Knight e6. I was hallucinating there was no e-pawn. Oh no, don't tell me. Asterby goes queen h5. Yeah, he did it. Dude, I'm telling you, he's a genius. Wow. The guy took on c7. That's a beautiful move, dude. No, but that's a beautiful move. I think he's learning from the Velimirovich games you've been submitting, Mr. Slow. This is straight up Velimirovich. Very beautiful. And then mate. Wow. Great game, Asterby. Yeah, that was very well. He's got a good sense of when he gets it together. He has a good sense of coordination. So he's not just a random idiot. Acerbate has skills, as I like to say. He's crazy, but he has skills. Like some poker players I know. Alright. Last game, Nefedov. Nefedov made a donation today that wasn't on the streaming donations. $20. That goes in the beer fund. We still need to raise $400 till the 1st of July. So we have 16 days to go. Boom. That just came through, man. Acerbate, it's not enough you honor us with your great chess, but you also donated a gift sub. You're my biggest fan, Acerbate. Are you my fan? I'm yours too. Alright. So Nefedov is our last game for today. Short and sweet analysis stream. But Nefedov is submitting his game against me, so we're going to look at it from his perspective. I don't know who you are. If you're looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a long career. Alright. Acerbate sharpening his skills here. This was a game I played against Nefedov. Nefedov was a long time viewer of the stream. Nefedov said he's concerned he might not be he doesn't know how to go to the next level. And he's trying to play some new openings. And so I'm just mentioning that here with that in mind. Yeah, I saw Nefedov he also played a Chigorin against me recently, which is out of character for Nefedov. Well, I mean, I think anytime you start to play new stuff, you may have growing pains, but it's got to help you in the long run to understand the game better. I don't think it can hurt to learn new things. This was a rapid game. Okay, so this was 2 knights. Knight c3, knight f6. He doesn't have well, I mean, what can you do? Knight f6 is the best move. And now I played knight f3, and again knight c6 is the best move. The 2 knights is really annoying for black to face, because honestly there just is no growing pains. What is glowing pains? What are glowing pains? So the 2 knights, yeah, the 4 knights or whatever, it's just very annoying for black to face. But I've been playing a whole bunch of things like a3, bishop e2, and g3 lately, and occasionally bishop b5. But I don't really love bishop b5. I mean, it's like the standard move. So I'm basically trying to play all these like a mix of a3, bishop e2, and g3. So these 3 major sidelines. And that's all you can do. I mean, that's all the good moves there are. You can play the main line with bishop e5. You can play the 4 knights, Scotch 4 knights, or you can play one of those 3 sidelines. Other moves like bishop c4 sucks. H3. Right, I thought about h3. Besides the Halloween Gambit in reverse, I guess I just didn't really see the upside of h3. What's the upside of h3? I'll take a look at it. Maybe it's not so stupid. I felt like a3 might be more useful than h3. So g3. And then covering G4. Okay. I tell you, there was this game that Alexander Ivanov hyperventilated, where his opponent like did the Halloween Gambit style thing, but he beat Husari in 2000. It was like some game 60, and in Boston. I remember I drew with Kurdo in that tournament. Can't believe it was 2000. Maybe it was a different tournament. Maybe it wasn't the tournament where I played John, but 2000. I got my IM title like around then, so I would be disappointed with the draw with Kurdo. Maybe I'm remembering a different tournament, probably from older. But anyway, I remember seeing Ivanov like freak out here. You know, knight c4. It's an interesting try, but it's probably not sound. I mean, I'm gonna guess. Oh, move the board. Sure. Move the board an inch to the right. Screens would fit better. Are you recording me? A board to the right. It's already like centered to the other way. Doesn't it seem like it's a little bit more on the wrong side there? In the other direction. Just make it slightly bigger. Oh, you think just make it slightly bigger? Like that? Mr. Coffee. Speaking for Nefra. Speak for yourself. I just had a weird sort of flashback to some kind of weird deja vu. Oh no, more! I'm just following Mr. Coffee's specific instructions. Hello, Mr. Slow Hand Grind. Thank you for the gift. Gina Rook just getting here as we prepare for crushing the English senior team at the World Senior Team Championship. We're going to crush England Team 1, England Team 2, England Team 3, and England Team 4. They have 4 teams. There's the game. Yeah, Ivanov Husari. No, I mean, it was crazy. Like, Ivanov was, like, turning purple and hyperventilating. He pulled both his knights back to B1 and G1, and it was, like, game 60 on a I don't think they had a digital clock. And he was, like, freaking out, man. I love Ivanov when he would get in time pressure and start hyperventilating. But even through all that, like, it seemed like all of his antics and his crazy stuff, and he would win more games because of his time pressure than he would lose. Anyway, knight takes c4. Is my board okay now? Can we continue? Or do you guys want to play with the board some more? You guys want me to put any rainbow colors or any kind of, filters? Anything else? Who drank Diet Coke while pacing with his eyes closed? Exactly. Exactly. This is a great sight of the board blindfold. You blow me away like post-game analysis without the board. I would literally have to, like, at some point just give up and be like, I'm sorry, I can't analyze with you anymore. He just more bamboo. When we're like blindfold analysis after the game, like sitting in the hallway or something, I was just dying. Okay, dude, I just can't see what you're talking about. So, Nefedov, like, this is a very passive move you played, Bishop e7. And I was surprised. I was surprised when Nefedov played bishop e7, because most people play bishop c5. It's much more active than playing bishop e7. You can also play like d5, obviously. Picking mushrooms in the woods, common here in Romania and Hungary as well. But I was surprised to see there's a game here from the New York Open, or possibly World Open. I don't know whatever happened to Mladen Vucic. Is he still around somewhere? I mean, I saw him in 2004. We played in a tournament in 2004 where he tricked me into giving him a draw. I haven't seen him since that. Kansas 2004. He's got to be way up in his 60s. No, bishop e7 is interesting. I saw here there's a Gleck game against Vucic. And, I mean, Vucic is just an IM. And Gleck was a really respected player, a theoretician. And this is his variation. But it went out of fashion at some point. That's its heyday, basically. When Gleck was at his peak in the early 90s, I think he won the World Open once. Maybe it was like that. It's entirely possible that the Gleck-Vucic game is from World Open, the year that Gleck won. I couldn't remember what year it was. Bishop e7, bishop g2, castle, castle. Yeah, Pavel, nothing wrong with bishop e7. It's a little bit passive. I never played this position exactly, although maybe in Blitz. Here, I noticed an interesting thing. All right. Savely Golubov, that's that kid that I think I altered his mind when I played e4 knight h6 against him in a rapid tournament in 2008 or whatever. Maybe it was 2010, around 2010. It's having a mind-altering experience. But he played only weird openings after that. It was very strange. But White's main move here is h3. And what I'm thinking is, being not experienced playing the Gleck system, the dude, I mean, Gleck has written articles, and I mean, there's surveys in New in Chess yearbooks about this system for White. I am just a noob. I don't really know what I'm doing. Ivanov has probably studied it seriously. Gleck studied it very seriously, had a lot of ideas. But h3, so what's the point, right? Why didn't I play d3 already? Anybody? Chess class is in session. Why is h3 maybe better than d3? Oh, it stops the pin from bishop g4. Well, maybe, but not only that. Why is h3 vastly more popular than d3? And I think that's my whole point. I wasn't consistent here. White, it's like an Andy Soltis thing. Great book, by the way. If you guys can find it. Think what was it? Soltis's yeah, I'm really getting dementia. Do you know the Soltis book? Grandmaster something. I'm losing it, man. I'm really losing it. Anyway, it's about it. It's like a collection of his games. I can't remember the title. But Soltis played the Vienna a lot. And so he would play Viennas with g3, like a Mises variation, similar to this. But one of the ideas is that you don't play, you don't commit So you're not committing. You're not committing to d3. It's like an accelerated dragon type of idea. You can trick people and play like d4 in one move. And so it's less, it's like inflexible to play d3. If I play h3, depending on what black does, I might hit him with d4. I can always play d3 whenever I want, but why commit to d3 right away? I think the problem isn't bishop g4. It's like, why am I committing myself to that? Look at white's score here. It's sick. Look at the score. I mean, to be fair, Nefedov is right. Like, bishop e7, he wanted to avoid theory. It's not that bad. Why is black's score so bad here? Again, raise your hand. Nefedov, I'm trying to teach you something, and you're like worried about how I pronounce these names wrong. Dude, you're missing the point. Who cares? I'm trying to talk about chess here, and Nefedov's worried about pronunciations. I'm American. Of course I pronounce shit wrong, you know? That's not the main point. You're like, how can I get to the next level? Pay attention and stop worrying about pronunciations. Seriously. If I play h3, why is white's score so good? Why is white's score like devastating, where he's won almost every game? Because good people don't play bishop e7. You know, that's simple. It's not that bad. It's like the Smith-Mortar Gambit or whatever. For chess riddle, I'll use that example. Why is black's score so bad? Because people who are strong players tend to not, they just are biased and don't like bishop e7 because it's a little bit passive. It's probably not that bad. But black has no active plan here. It's like playing the black side of the king's gambit declined or something. You're passive. It's f4 and you got no counterplay. Possibly d4. You know, so I'm thinking like if black plays passively, you see? Olaf Sepp couldn't win. But the young Cornetta. But why not? I mean, now we've got a good Philidor or Steinitz for white. So you get the point. The important thing is to get the point. h3 was better. I played d3. And it's not bad only because of bishop g4. It's bad because it gives up my right to play d4. And I'm stupid, you know? I'm not even certain that bishop g4 is black's best move, but I think that it's reasonable. You know, there's nothing worse than, like... By the way, like, losing with white here is out of the question. Saveli Golubov lost to Maksudlu, probably World Junior. Maksudlu won the World Junior around that time. I am not 100% sure which year it was. Approximately 2016, though. So they're probably the same age. These other players, though, Vanderveel with black, 2019. Jesus Christ. Where is Vanderveel's brain? There's definitely rating deflation if Vanderveel is like 2394. All right. You know, so if you had a lot of Vanderveels playing black, obviously black won't have a negative score. But anytime you play this move in the double king pawn openings, you have to be like, am I an idiot? You know? You're going to give up your good bishop for a knight. And you don't really have any justification for that. Except for this hope that my bishop will be bad. . So, here's where we separate the men from the boys. Vanderveel played bishop h5. He's A stronger player. B, he has bigger balls. Or C, he's suffering from dementia because he's so old. He's older than me. And his rating is 2394. I don't know. It could be any of these three. I got to admit that if I was like Nefedov, I would have caved as well and played bishop takes f3. I mean, this happens a lot in the Rossalimo. You're just like, okay, I'll suffer. I'll just give you my bishop, and I'm gonna keep it simple. But you got a freaking grandmaster who was a very strong player. He was probably close to 2600. I mean, I think Vanderveel was around 2600. You know, a very respectable grandmaster, and he's not that old. And he plays bishop h5 here. It's way more aggressive and provocative. Now his opponent plays g4. I don't know if I like g4 or not. I don't have to play g4. I assume his opponent is some young guy. You know, I don't know. Meissner. They're overrated. White is not obligated to play g4, but if he wants to play knight h4, he probably has to play it right away. So the game goes g4, bishop g6, knight h4. If you wait, you're not going to get knight h4. Because after bishop h5, if you make a waiting move, king h2, knight d7, for example, and now you can't do knight h4, you won't be able to trap this bishop. On the other hand, maybe white has other plans. Maybe this bishop isn't really worth my time. So black has other issues like this. Maybe I go after the other bishop and I say, what is that? So I think there's a case to be made here that Meissner's follow-up, you know, we'll see. But Pavel just took. And then white is a little better. I have to take with the bishop because knight d4 is annoying anyway. I mean, I could take either way. It doesn't really matter. If I took with the queen, knight d4, queen d1, it transposes this. But now, I mean, I have a very clear plan, and I have a white square bishop and you don't. And there are virtually no scenarios where black is like better here. Black is either playing for a draw or slightly worse. Only if white goes crazy and overextends. I thought you would maybe play like c6 and take this, and after f4, then maybe like move the knight back. This is what happened in the other game. So the idea is that you can meet like f5 with bishop g5 probably. That's the way I would play it. By playing rook e8, there's some logic, but at the same time you have to be careful of the f-file. So I played f4, and now you played h6. Plastic surgery donation for Dr. Tits. Whoa. We're going to have some extra money, I think, at this rate. Oh my god. It's a good rating. It was a good year. Mr. Slow, what are you doing? Wow. That's the biggest donation we had in a long time. At this rate, we're going to have like beer money for Krakow. But I don't want to drink too much beer. We got to focus on the important stuff. Mr. Slow Mr. Tits just donated $1.99. I told a joke that I got from Peter Wells back in the day. And the story is that Peter Wells used to live in Hungary for a time. And I don't know if he has a Hungarian girlfriend or wife. I'll explain it. And who is Mr. Tits? You spell it awfully well. Peter Wells told the story of this of this matchup between Peter Large, who's still around, and Haimo Tits, who was an older, like I am or FM. And I don't know. I honestly don't know if he was German or Austrian. One or the other. But Peter was there when they were joking about the pairing. It was some tournament in the UK, I believe. The people went to the wall chart, and all they saw was like Large versus Tits, and it went from there. I'm just thinking of the funniest pairings that we ever had, like Large versus Small. Anyway, that's where we got the inspiration. But Mr. Slow is Mr. Tits, apparently. I suspect. What's this? I got a notification. The game you're discussing reminds me of another game. Okay. So, Peter Large is still around, Nefidov. He was playing some tournament there. I saw. Or maybe he's on the list, actually. England has 4 teams for the World Senior Team Championship. And maybe Peter Large is on one of the teams. I'm not sure. But I saw his name somewhere recently. We never played. But it's great. There was this guy, Greg Small, from LA. He's like an FM. He would always play in the National Open. Greg Small is like freaking 6 foot. He's like 6'9" or something like that. So I always thought that was funny. All right. So Nefidov plays rook e8. I mean, you got to be careful about this rook. You're. What are you doing here? You're like pressuring my e4 pawn. You see what I'm saying? Rook e8 is like it's a move, but this is way more constructive. Supporting d5, controlling d5 directly, and keeping your rook on f8 in case the f file matters. Mr. Slow, again, thank you. Massive donations. The less viewers we have, the more donations we get. It's intimate here, isn't it? It's intimate. We need like candlelight. Should I do my streams like candlelight with some wine or something like that? We would probably get better quality like donations. I mean, if you're going to have a stream with like 12-year-olds in the audience, are you going to get any quality donations? Probably not, right? I need like candlelight, nice relaxing classical music, serious analysis. Mr. Coffee. Yeah, I'm serious. All right. So rook e8. Mr. Coffee, that doesn't involve only fans. All right. Everything he thinks about. It's the only thing he thinks about is the OnlyFans. All right. So rook e8. Would you donate to the version I'm describing? Of course. f4. Oh, he's an FM from Austria. Okay. So it was something like, I don't know how it ended up happening, but he was from Austria. Okay. Helmut Titz. But he, I don't know, maybe Peter Wells knew him from the Hungarian or Austrian like team championship or something like that. Because Peter was living here for a long time. What does the computer think of h6? Okay, h6. What does the computer think of h6? You can get the computer. You can ask the computer what it thinks. I think it's controversial, but maybe not bad. I mean, you're clearly your strategy is to play for dark square control. So h6 makes some sense if we're gonna like try to maybe trade our bad bishop. You have knight h7. So if white isn't careful, if I'm like a noob, I could do something stupid like let you old Indian me here, where we get like Fischer, Kyrgios. Kyrgios beat Fischer twice with black in the Caro-Kann, like 2 nights variation, where he like traded off his dark squared bishop, and the white bishop on g2 ends up being a bad piece. That's Nefyadov's dream scenario. If you can trade off my dark square bishop and leave me with a bad white square bishop, well, you look like a genius, But I know that I don't want that to happen. By the way, Fischer never really solved the Caro-Kann. h6, and I always was impressed by that because Kyrgios was smart. He knew how good Fischer was in the Spanish, and he learned his lesson, so he played the Caro-Kann. Knight e2, and this was lame, dude. I looked at this game, Pablo, and I regretted this move. I realized I played like a real wimp with the move knight e2. But I was berserking and you had 7 minutes. But I can't remember what it was now. I had something better. Not knight e2. Well, I don't have that many options is the thing. I mean, what am I going to play? Like bishop e3, okay, fine. But what am I threatening? Can I play it like a Nigel Short closed Sicilian? Just bishop e3. I have to watch this. If queen d2 here. Well, like a closed Sicilian. Not just Nigel Short. I mean, in general. I should have played this, kept attention. This is weak. And I think with this move I could try to take advantage of this. Not trading for it. I mean, maybe queen e2, move the knight and play c3. Maybe I could even play like queen e2, bishop f2, knight d1. Something really long-winded. And kick your knight off with d4, and then you're totally screwed. If I can kick your knight off with d4, I mean, because your bishop is bad, your rook isn't doing anything. Your other knight is like waiting for an opportunity. But anyway, all right. This was weak by me, and now you're like not much worse. I'm getting closer to like bad bishop versus knight endgame. And you played queen d7. And I think queen d7 isn't bad, but I was wondering how the fuck you came up with that d5. You play queen d7. It's like a routine, sort of solid developing move. I could have traded, but I didn't really want to. I wanted to keep the tension here. So I played c3. And then you played rook on a d8. I mean, it looks like Nefyadov, this is Nefyadov's Slaggy square. Nefyadov, do you know what a Slaggy square is? He doesn't watch the stream enough. That's your Slaggy square. It's big. 3x4. And Slaggy square is like a 3x7. So my pieces have better spacing than you. You're like all congested. You might need like some kind of decongestant. Yeah, I think you're right. Of course, Mr. Slow. Keeping the tension is better. Although knight exchanges, it's not the same as like pawn exchanges. Yeah, keeping the tension is generally better. But he blew me away, dude. And the funny thing is, okay, I make a waiting move with king h2, and black the same with bishop f8, and then he like freaked me out, man. Wait to play in this position. I could have closed the center and gone for his like jugular with f5, but if I do f5, he'll probably do this, and if I do, g4, he'll come back. And he can try to hang on to the dark square blockade, maybe just in time. So objectively, what should white do now? White is a little better, and I've lost positions like this in the Sicilian. Like I said, the Rossalimo. I just couldn't believe it, what happened next. It's like a clickbait video. Hero square, you're thinking of Nefedov. I played queen f3. I'm like, okay, this is good. I'll just improve the position of my queen. We'll pressure f7. I'll increase the pressure here on the diagonal. And the guy plays d5. I'm like, oh my god. You're a genius. How can you play d5? I was like, oh no. And it's the computer's #1 move. So I really want to get some investigations from the paranormal investigators here. You blew me away when you played d5. In general, playing d5 is an idea, but like playing it after I played queen f3 without any like c6 or anything, I was surprised. You could just do that. And you're like, okay, just open up the white squares. It's no problem. And everything's fine. Like, normally this would be a weird decision. He's kind of weakened himself. He's like letting my bad bishop out. So this has to be good for me. But it's not so great, it turns out. He takes d5. I'm not even sure if I should take. I could try to keep the tension. So I take. I'm looking for open lines for my white square bishop. He takes. I take on e5. He takes. I've like, okay, I've got a strong central pawn. I've got 2 bishops. I've got the f-file. I've got white square domination. I must be better. And the computer is like, it's equal. I was like stunned, This is kind of hard to believe. I mean, I have the stronger center. I'll just go through the list again. 2 bishops, stronger center. I'm just being dogmatic. Nefedov's pieces are in the game. They're in the game. And then I played d4, and I was under the impression that I was clearly better here. Falsely. I mean, unthinkably. What's the evaluation? He made an inaccuracy now. Nefedov should have played rook e6. But he played rook e7. Naturally, probably he didn't want to like provoke me to play h4 and bishop h3 or something. But this move isn't that hard to find. Since I don't have bishop h3, and you're threatening stuff like rook f6, maybe trading pieces, I don't know. I thought I was clearly better. But this is awkward. This is the second best move, and it's slightly awkward. But it's safe. Rook e6 is more active. Now, I'm under the impression I'm better. And then rock moves c6. Rook ae1. Poor Sladgy, like, again, under this stupid delusion that I'm better with 2 bishops and a central pawn on d4. How could I... I mean, your bishop on f8. This kind of pisses me off, like, maybe I don't really understand chess as well as I thought I do. I thought I was slightly better here, and I'm not. I guess we have to have some appreciation for the knight on d5. It's a nice knight you've got there on d5. And it's hard to get rid of it. If I play c4, then, my base d4 pawn gets weak. So here, and I did it. And I shouldn't do it, probably. Well, maybe I should, but anyway. Like, I'm just not better. This is risky. And I thought Nefedov absolutely, like, shouldn't play this, because it's a bad square. But I think he probably was afraid of, you know, something ghosts that weren't there. I mean, this looks like a way better move. But maybe not. Maybe the point is, it looks like, and it's not. You know, b6 is putting knight on a bad square, but I'm double attacked. So here I was getting short of time at 219, and Nefedov has 340, and I missed queen d3. I would normally find this move. It's not that difficult. Common denominator, pawns that are hanging. Ways to protect it, not too many. So I should have found this move. And again, if I was in good form, I probably would. In any case, on the next move. Okay, rook e7 now. I should have played queen d3. It's not that hard to see this move. This is where I threw away any advantage I had. But the number one rule of two bishops is that you don't trade them off. Unless you got a really good reason. So bishop e4 was a trash move because I was in time pressure. And it just helps black. This is the move. After queen d3, I'm slightly better. After this, I'm not. Now I'm helping him trade off my bishop pair. So that was brilliant. You know, bishop e4, rook e8, and now my pawn's hanging, my other pawn's hanging, and we have a trade of bishops. Nefedov is like freaking a genius. I can't avoid the exchange of bishops. So take, and then you stunned me again, where I was like, wow, that's weird. He's played the game very solidly, and suddenly now he plays king takes f8. Maybe that's solid. I don't know. This is solid passive. This is like solid aggressive. I don't know. I expected rook takes, but he didn't want to abandon his aggressive, you know, tendencies. Now b3. His knight is terrible. It can recycle. I have pressure on f7, so he can't take the pawn on d4. But it's just not enough for me. And so queen e7, and then I got sucked into this like temptation where we're getting low on time, and I know that I need to be careful here. I think my best was something like d5. I just couldn't resist trying to trick him in time pressure. And this is probably the most like unbelievable moment in the game, right? 99 out of 100 people would have played king g8 here. And I don't even know what I would have done next. Probably d5. But, you know, Nefedov either misses it or invites me in. So he plays knight d7. That's very convoluted to like encourage me to come in here. And I did, and I'm just like setting myself up for failure. And check, and who cares? So now, big deal. You know, I didn't achieve anything. And really, I should just try to get out. Maybe I get trapped, but I have queen takes g6, so no. But I mean, basically, if I play queen h7, you play knight f6. If I repeat position, it's a draw. You know, and that's probably the correct result here. But it was a stupid time situation. You know, so I try a Hail Mary here. Takes. I mean, obviously, I just take back with the pawn. Black's hanging on. I take with the bishop, leaving myself open, but I miss something. You know, check here. We both missed something. There was a very important move at one point. Check here, check here, and then queen h5. But you had something better. Not this position. There was a very strong move for Nefedov. Okay, here, yeah. So he misses his big chance. Queen d2 check, which I overlooked. And obviously rook f2, rook e2. But what's really scary is like king g1. Yes, rook e1. In any case, like black is better. So my queen is just out of play on h8. But I mean, to be fair, like we're playing the clock at this point to some extent because it's not increment. This is sudden death. So I thought Nefedov might panic in time pressure. That's why I played like queen h7, queen h8. It was kind of risky. And I'm lucky that he missed queen d2 and he played this, and now he's lost after rook f2. So that's just pure luck. I mean, if he had found the correct move, queen d2 check, I'm just still worse. So stupid luck, but you know. After this, he's lost. He has to give up the queen, and there's no blockade here. I have 3 against 2 on the queen side. Even if I just had 4 pawns, it's a win. So it's over. But Nefedov, yeah, impressive, you know, skill there. Always a tough game with Nefedov. There's no easy games against him. He didn't really have a chance at the end here. The queen's too strong. So anyway, thanks to the games, guys. Mr. Slow, I don't know what to say. Very generous. Massive donation, up to $17.99. We still got 16 days to go. 14 days to go. 16 or 14, 16. My glasses. I'll use the extra money. If we get any extra money, I'm going to buy glasses for real. Maybe I'll intimidate people. But anyways, is anyone still here? All right. Yeah, I missed some chat at the end there. Queen d2 should be winning. Winning, probably. Right. No, Nefedov played solid. But I mean, the move d5 blew me away. I thought he wouldn't open up the white squares. It's kind of counterintuitive. You know, I was very surprised. He's trying to keep me contained, but it also freed him up, and his knight was stronger than I thought. Interesting judgment from Nefedov there. He didn't want to stay passive. Anyway, Mr. Slow, massive donations today. I appreciate it. Thanks to all of you guys for the hype train, for everything. I enjoy doing the analysis stream. Simul's on Sunday. We're going to the World Team Championship July 1st. July 1st to the 12th. I won't be here. But until then, we're on... yeah. Work your ass off for more donations. Work your tits off. You got to do some more plastic surgery. Anyway, Mr. Slow, like plastic surgeons get paid a lot. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Mr. Coffee. Thanks to everybody. Tomorrow we got Blitz stream Friday morning and Sunday simul. Thank you, guys. I enjoyed the analysis. I hope it's helpful. Bye, everyone. Good night.